All right. Hey, welcome back. This is where we're going to start diving into our core principles. These principles are things that I have learned over the past 3 years working with the AI, and they're very important. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. They're very important things to understand when we're trying to get the AI to obey us. And so if you go through these principles and you learn them, I guarantee you that it will be easier to speak with the AI, and the AI will do a better job of carrying out what you want. Okay. So the first principle we're going to learn is called know your goal. Now, this is such a foundational principle. It's going to control everything we do. Knowing your goal is going to help answer what style of prompting that you need to use when you talk with the AI. So here's the question. Here's the nuts and bolts of it. Ask yourself if the task that you want the AI to do is something you'll need it to do often, underline that word often, in the future. Okay. If yes, if the answer to that question is yes, the task that you want the AI to do is something you'll need it to do often in the future. In that case, you'll need to create what we call a custom prompt. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But if the answer is no, if the task that you want the AI to do is not something you'll need it to do often in the future, then in that case, chatting with the AI is all that's needed. Okay, so again, go back to our question. Ask yourself if the task that you want the AI to do is something you'll need it to do often in the future. A lot of these principles that we're going to talk about will work better when we're creating a custom prompt, but they are still applicable when we're chatting with the AI. Let's talk about chatting with the AI first. So chatting with the AI is extremely useful when we want to explore things or do things that don't require a custom prompt. Maybe we're spitballing some different ideas, or we're learning about a particular subject, or we don't really know how to get to what we want and we just need the AI to guide us. So here's an example. Help me rewrite this email to my boss so that it's more formal and professional sounding. You want to write an email to someone, maybe it's your boss, and you have it, and you know what, your grammar kind of sucks, or you've never really written a professional email before. You don't really know how to do it. And so this chatting with the AI is just great. Let's actually open up ChatGPT right now. I'm going to use 3.5 because some of you are probably using that. We could say, I'm dear boss, dear Sam boss. I'm late for work today because I got a flat tire and there's lots of traffic. I'll be in within the hour. Thanks. All right, so something simple like that, but you're like, yeah, does that sound a little bit too, I don't know, casual and whatnot? So we can say to the AI, this email to my boss in a more formal manner so that it sounds professional, but not over the top. Okay. Hope this message finds you well. I regret to inform you that I'll be arriving. Then you say, you know what? That's a little too formal. I regret to inform you that I'll be arriving late to work today. All right. I regret to inform you is too formal. Dial it down a bit, but still have it professional. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to let you know that I'll be arriving late to work due to unexpected circumstances. Fantastic. All right. It's not too over the top. It's not too ridiculous. It sounds very, very professional. So I like this. You know, I'm not planning on getting another flat tire anytime soon. So this is just a once and done. I'm just chatting with the AI to get the goal that I need. Okay. So it's great for general tasks. Right? Chatting is also great to help us learn. There are so many teachers right now that are afraid of what AI is going to do, and all the kids are going to be cheating. And oh my gosh, this is the end of education as we know it. I think about it completely differently. I would have killed to be a kid and have ChatGPT because I don't learn from books. And my mind is always focused on a million things. So it's hard for me to pay attention well in class. So I would love to go to ChatGPT, start a new chat and say, I'm learning about the Civil War in school. Please tell me what I need to know. So there's causes. There's Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. There's Gettysburg. Okay, now this is very basic, but watch, let's dive a little deeper. Now, pretend I'm a student and I'm interested in just things on the spur of the moment. I'm like, oh, wow, I want to learn more about the Battle of Gettysburg. Can you tell me more about the Battle of Berg? That sounds cool. Now, the AI can, if you've heard about this before, the AI can hallucinate, it can make up facts, but on things like this, very well-known topics, very well-known subjects that have been discussed for many years, the AI will be very accurate on these types of things. So this is a perfect use case to learn more about, like the Civil War, for instance. So it talks about the battleground, the initial classes, three-day battle. Hey, I want to know more about the three-day battle. What were both sides dealing with? Now, as you dive deeper, you got to make sure that all this stuff is accurate. This is fantastic. I can go down these rabbit holes and really stimulate my mind by learning what I want to learn about this particular subject. So this is, yeah, it's great for chatting and helping us learn. And when you pay the $20 a month, so ChatGPT is normally free, but you can pay the $20 a month to unlock GPT-4, and it gives you a certain number of requests per couple hours. So it's smarter, like the brain is bigger, but then it also allows you to create images. So create a widescreen image of a park setting in the fall. So it allows you to even create images. And then if you don't like the images, you can have it revise the images. Fantastic, fantastic deal. Even though I've created my own AI writing software, I still pay $20 a month for ChatGPT because it's very useful in a lot of situations, and you don't have to worry about breaking the bank. It's only $20. And if you don't like it, you can tell it to regenerate. So a lot of cool things. And the other thing I want to show you is something that I've been creating with my mother-in-law. She's a former teacher, and we've been using AI with it, but then she's doing the voiceovers. It's called Stories with Maybe Laura, and I'm doing it all inside of ChatGPT, and I'll have a bonus lesson on showing you how I did it. But all of these stories, we have 15 now, but we're going to add more. So she's like a former teacher, and she's retired, but she still loves teaching kids, and she has great inflection in doing different character voices. And so she wanted to read these books during COVID. She wanted to read books on YouTube. And I said, well, you really can't do that because that's copyright infringement. But if you gave me like a plot, so if she'd come up with a plot, I could have the AI, expound upon that and write the entire story. And then we could do images from the story, subtitles, and all that good stuff. So she's been doing that and absolutely, absolutely love it. But we're doing it all with ChatGPT, the $20 a month subscription. I'll show you in the bonus lesson exactly how I make those. It's really cool. So there's a lot of benefits to chatting with the AI. But sometimes chatting with the AI just doesn't cut it. It's not enough. So let me go to the next one. There's two major drawbacks when we talk about chatting with the AI. The first is prompt bias. And these drawbacks are reasons why you might want to create a custom prompt, something that's repeatable. So this is called prompt bias. Let's go back over here to our late arrival, okay? Let's say I like to talk with my boss a lot about various things, okay? Not just flat tires. He's constantly emailing me. I constantly have to respond back to him, okay? What exactly is the prompt here? Let's say the next thing my boss needs me to respond to is the TPS reports, okay? The TPS reports, I've been missing them. I haven't been reading them. I need to read the TPS reports, all that stuff. All right, if I draft up a little email and tell him I'm sorry, I haven't read the recent TPS reports. I'll try to read them more and try to stay on top of what's going on in our company. And I had to write this email to my boss in a more formal manner, blah, blah, blah. I might end up with something like this. But how do I just get this right out of the gate? Okay. Do I need to just combine this and this together? Like, what's the actual prompt? The prompt here, all right, is this entire conversation. And that's called prompt bias. Like, I don't have something nice and simple that I can just come in here and copy and say, I'm sorry, I haven't read the TPS reports about this month's happenings in the business and how we need to keep our staple safe. I'll try harder. Okay, we just do that, we're going to get a very formal prompt again. We get our output. Now, is this, maybe this is a little bit too formal? Thank you for your understanding. That sounds a little condescending a little bit. Maybe I want to dial it down. So we don't really have a prompt here that I can come in here and just consistently use to converse with my boss. Let's do another example. So let's say I'm a writer and I want to write some blog posts. I'm writing blog posts all day long or something. Write an introduction for a blog post about how to get into college with bad grades. All right, so I'm writing my introduction right now. But I like my introductions to be one paragraph long. I like them short and sweet. So make it again, but one paragraph. All right, so we have our one paragraph. But I like to have a metaphor in the first sentence. Include a metaphor in the first sentence. All right, great. We got our introduction with our one paragraph with our metaphor. Now, this is a pretty simple prompt right here. We could combine all of these, but imagine we've conversed with the AI for quite a while to achieve the result we want. What exactly is my prompt? My prompt is this entire conversation. So I can't easily take this and replicate it to a different blog post topic, how to wash a dog or something like that. So prompt bias is one of the downsides to chatting with the AI, because you don't know what the exact prompt was that caused it to create an output that you like. Okay, so that's the big drawback right there. The second drawback is called forgetfulness. When you chat with the AI, all of this content is being fed back to OpenAI as one long string of information. Eventually, this is going to get so full that some of the stuff at the top will no longer be fed back into the AI. So imagine you have like 200 conversations in here, all on the same subject, okay? You're either writing a blog post or you're writing a book or you're doing something that has longer input. Eventually, you're going to reach a point that it doesn't remember what you first talked about. And so it's forgetting that kind of stuff. So that's another example where creating a custom prompt is the right choice. So that wraps up the first principle, which is knowing your goal. Again, to recap, ask yourself the question on whether or not what you're having the AI do is something you're going to have the AI do frequently. If not, then chatting with the AI is perfectly fine. But if so, then we need to go down the route of creating our own custom prompt, okay? Very, very simple principle, but very important principle. Now, the next principle we're going to learn about is understanding the different AI models, because there's GPT-4, there's GPT 3.5, there's other models too. And all of those models play a big role in the type of output that you're getting and whether or not the AI is able to actually obey you. So come with me and let's dive into the next principle. All right, welcome to the second principle for getting prompted. This is another foundational principle. The previous one was about ChatGPT, and this one's about AI models. Principle 3 is when we're going to actually dive into the techniques and best practices for prompting and getting the AI to obey us. But a lot of that is dependent on the AI model we choose. So I want to lay this foundation right now, talk about AI models for a moment. So the AI, or when we talk about AI, it has these things called models. And you've probably heard of GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. In ChatGPT, you can select GPT-4 if you have the paid $20 a month account, and you can by default select GPT 3.5. Both of these are text models, okay? But if you ask GPT-4 to generate an image, it will use, see this thing right here that says DALL-E, D-A-L, and then a dash E, all right? That's an image model. We can see the other models that OpenAI has. There's this document page here. So there's different GPT-4 turbo models and GPT-4 models. There's different GPT 3.5 turbo models, and there's a DALL-E model. So we scroll down, and there's like a turbo, and there's an updated turbo, and there's a turbo preview, all kinds of different models here. They each kind of do the same thing, but they've been updated at different times. Like this is current 2024 of April. This is current to November the 6th of 2023. And then there's GPT-4 models. There's a couple different ones there. And then there's a couple GPT 3.5 models. And then there's only one DALL-E 3 model right here. So a lot of different models. So that might beg the question, then what is ChatGPT? Is ChatGPT a model? It's not. ChatGPT is just an interface to these models. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. ChatGPT is not an AI. ChatGPT is simply an interface to talk with these particular models. Now, all of these models and the interface of ChatGPT were created by a company called OpenAI. Okay, OpenAI is the company. We can go to Google and just type in OpenAI. Actually, not Sora. And this is the company that kind of jump started the whole AI revolution. So they created all these different models, and it sounds like a pretty cool place to work. And they also have a video model coming out soon called Sora. You should definitely Google this and check it out if you've never heard of it before. But it's openai.com/Sora. And check this out. This is insane. So this is down here. Here's the prompt. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm glowing neon and animated city signage. So this is all generated with AI. If you watch the background, you can spot a couple glitches here or there, but this is all AI. And if we fast forward, look at that. That's that's not a real person. There's no real person out there that this is basing this on. This is literally just based from this prompt right here. Here's another example. The prompt is: the camera follows behind a white vintage SUV with a black roof rack as it speeds up a steep dirt road surrounded by pine trees on a steep mountain slope. Dust kicks up from its tires, and there's more stuff in here for the prompt also. Absolutely amazing. Some of you might have seen this, some of you might not have, but this is going to be a game changer in terms of just reality itself. So that's called Sora. Now, all of those were created by OpenAI. But OpenAI is not the only people that have created models. So this is a model called Gemini, and it's by Google. This is Gemini. You got to pay monthly for this one, for the advanced one. But I think this is like version like 1.5 or something like that. And so I actually had ChatGPT write a short essay about the Civil War using ChatGPT 4. Here's the essay right here. And then I asked Gemini to do that. And so here's the essay right here. And there's another company called Anthropic, and they made it something called Claude. And depending on your subscription to Claude, they have a free version, but they also have a paid version. They all have these paid versions, 20 bucks a month. So here is the short essay on the Civil War by Claude. Which one's better? It's hard to say. A lot of people do prefer the paid version of Claude more than ChatGPT. It's very ever so slight though. But OpenAI is working on GPT-5, which is going to be even better than Claude. It's like a big race right now. The long and short of it is, I don't think any of them are necessarily better than the others. They're all fighting against each other to develop the best AI. And at the end of the day, we the consumers, are the ultimate winners in this whole race. Now, all of those are closed source models. So GPT-4, GPT 3.5, even though the company's called OpenAI, their AI models are not really open. They're not open source so that we can view the code. Neither is Gemini, neither is Claude. However, there are some open source models where they're completely free. You can download them, run them on your computer, but they're not as powerful as some of these other models. As an example, Amazon is training their own model right now. I think it's going to be one of the largest models whenever they get it done, although these other companies might catch up. And it's said to cost Amazon $1 billion to just train the model. But there's also X, or Twitter has a model called Grok, although I think it's like a humorous kind of thing. So there's a lot of sarcasm and whatnot in it. I don't really know what kind of value it provides to the end user, but there it is. It's important to think of these models as like a human brain that has to a certain spot, and then the development stopped and that person was like frozen in time. So I don't know how old you are, but think of your brain right now. Imagine if someone were to freeze your learning. So you could never learn any more stuff, but you could perfectly recall and synthesize information you already learned. That's what a model is. AI models don't learn anymore. They have to be retrained from scratch. They can't learn new things. That's why when you go to ChatGPT and we say, my name is Bob Hope. Hello, Bob Hope. And I open up a new chat and I say, what is my name? The AI has absolutely no idea because, again, it hasn't learned my name. All that it knows, where'd it go? Right here. If I ask it again, what is is my name. It knows my name is Bob Hope because remember we covered this before. All of this conversation, its response, my question, its response, my statement, all of this is being fed back in to simulate persistent knowledge. But the AI has no continuous learning after it was already trained. If we look at the models that OpenAI have, they'll all have like training data up to 2023. So like this GPT-4 Turbo model, for instance, this has been trained with data up to this point in time. Now, the training data, all right, some of these models have a wider range of training data than other models, like the GPT 3.5 Turbo model, all right, the size of the brain, for example, is smaller than the size of the brain for Claude Opus or the size of the brain for GPT-4, for instance. Not only can these AI models not learn new things, each of these models have their own level of intelligence, their own like different size of brain. Taking the human analogy, you could say, okay, some of these models are like developed teenagers. That's how much they know. Other models are like rocket scientists or Albert Einstein or something like that. So when we use ChatGPT, for instance, if you pay the $20 a month, you might be wondering, why can I only use ChatGPT 4 so many times, but I can almost use GPT 3.5 an unlimited amount of times? The reason is the brain for GPT-4 is bigger and therefore consumes more energy. The bigger the brain, the more energy it uses to respond to your requests. Whereas the smaller brains, like 3.5, they're very inexpensive to run from a computational standpoint. And so that's why you can use GPT 3.5 almost as much as you want. So we've talked about how there's different models, how there's some that are not open to the public, how there are models that are open to the public. We've talked about how each model can't learn anymore beyond its training data. Once it finished training, it's not going to learn anymore. It can synthesize data and respond to stuff and chat with you, but it's going to have no memory the next day of what you talked about unless you feed that data back into it. Then we talked about how each model has its own basically brain size, all right, brain capability. And we talked about how it's not going to remember your conversation. So it's almost like a single use notebook. It can write stuff down in the notebook and then write its answer in the notebook. But then when it's done, it crumples that piece of paper up and gets a blank page and starts again, starts with that fresh chat. And then finally, we mentioned how there's a limited number of chats that you can make with GPT-4 just because it's more expensive to run because the brain is bigger. So what's cool about ChatGPT is you pay a flat fee, but if you actually access the API, which is, and this gets a little bit into the weeds, but there's a way to connect to the OpenAI models, not through the ChatGPT interface, and you could do it through code. But in our next lesson, we're actually going to connect to these models, to any of these models, using something called the playground. I hope this lesson kind of laid a good foundation for what the AI models are, how they work, and the limits of them. And we'll dive right into the next lesson. Hope to see you there. Hey, and welcome back to the next lesson. This lesson, we're covering principle 3, which is avoiding chat bias. This principle is important. Underline that 5 times. This principle is very important. Underline that 5 times. Avoiding chat bias can make or break your prompts. If you are developing your prompts without avoiding chat bias, you could be doing everything wrong. Remember our first principle when I talked about knowing your goal? I said the first thing you have to ask is, what are you doing with the AI? Are you just learning a concept? Are you just chatting with the AI? Tell me about this historical concept, or explain calculus to me because I have no clue. All right. If you're learning about a concept, this avoiding chat bias is not relevant. Or maybe you're doing a one-off prompt, something very simple. You're fixing some grammar on something you typed, or just something very simple that you don't need to repeat. In that situation, chatting with the AI is perfectly fine. You don't need to avoid chat bias. But in the situation where you're creating something that you want to use again and again, that's when avoiding chat bias as you're developing your prompt is so important. So avoiding chat bias can help you create a more powerful prompt, the prompt that the AI actually follows. It can help you understand what your prompt is doing, and it's the best way to get the AI to obey you. So let me show you a chat bias again. I think we might have touched on this in one of the earlier lessons. I'm not sure, but let me explain it in ChatGPT here and talk about how to avoid it. So we're going to pretend that we are an 8th grade teacher and we want to write a lesson plan for our students or a handout for our students on the topic of the Civil War. Today or this week, we're going to do the Civil War. Next week, we're going to do the Mongolian Empire. And then the following week, we'll do the Roman Empire and so on. Wish I was back in history class. So write a student handout for my 8th grade class on the subject of the Civil War. I think ChatGPT is phenomenal for learning concepts. You need help learning the Civil War because the way your teacher's explaining it or the way the book explaining it isn't quite working. Ask ChatGPT. Or if you're a teacher, using the AI as an assistant to help you do your job is also invaluable. So we have this handout here, but first of all, it's too long and these points are nice. Maybe this would be a great overview, but I'm looking for a quick 2-paragraph summary and then maybe some discussion questions. So let's change this up. Change it to a 2-paragraph summary. All right, I like that. Now, how about some discussion questions? Add 5, not 65, discussion questions. That's good. Now, how about we add some multiple choice questions? Add 5 multiple choice questions too. Awesome. Then we want some homework for the students to do. And you also add some homework for the students. It should be 1-paragraph instruction, and the homework should involve a poster board because they are making a presentation. I have a spelling error or two, but the AI can figure that out. Great. And then let's have some like dinner table discussion, maybe a question that they can take home and talk to their parents about. Write a 1-paragraph dinner table discussion that the kids can talk about over the dinner table with their parents on this topic. I'm not a big fan of that. Tonight's dinner table discussion revolves around the Civil War. As we've been learning in class, this pivotal period, who talks like that? What are your thoughts on these topics? How do the lessons of the Civil War can be applied in our life today? Let's dive into a thoughtful and engaging conversation as we enjoy our meal together. I don't like that. That just sounds way too like stiff and over the top. Can you make it sound much more casual and not so stiff? Hey, folks. All right, so there's some work we got to do on this dinner table discussion thing. But in here, we have our 2 paragraphs, and then we have some discussion questions, and then some multiple choice questions, some homework, and then we have this dinner table discussion. Great. So I can piece all these things together and put them into the Word document. But what if I want to change this up to the topic of the Mongolian Empire? Or what if I want to repeat all this for the Roman Empire? Or what if I want to come back 6 months later and do this for another topic? Right? What's my prompt here? It's like this mishmash of stuff. Now, I could go through this entire process again, but that's very inefficient. And as we'll learn in later lessons, creating your prompts this way, where you're conversing with the AI, actually biases the output that the AI is giving you. So let me make a point. I might have already showed you this in the previous lesson, but I'm not sure. But let me do it again here. My name is Matt Zimmerman. We'll open up a new prompt now. What is my name? So between different chats, the AI has no memory. It has no persistent memory. I think I mentioned in the discussion on the different AI models that the AI models are fixed brains. They're static brains. They've been frozen in time. They can't learn anymore. That's why the AI doesn't know my name. All right, knows it over here. What's my name? What's my name? Your name is Matt Zimmerman. What's my name? Now it's attacking my spelling. So there's no persistent knowledge between these different chats. So what's going on with this Civil War overview? How can I say something like, can you make it sound much more casual and not so stiff? And it can reply with a modified version of that. That's because everything in here is being fed back into the AI. So it's not magic. It seems like magic, but it's really not. All of this stuff is just simultaneously being fed back in during every single request that I make to the AI. And this is good and this is bad. This is good because I can chat with the AI like this. But this is bad to create prompts because what is my prompt? Imagine we get a much more complex prompt that's doing a lot of very technical things, very complicated things. It wouldn't be possible inside of ChatGPT, chatting with the AI, to build something like that. All right. Because everything's being fed back in, it's biasing the output because one prompt is not being fed in, but all of these prompts are being fed in every single time I type in a message here and I hit enter. And then eventually, one of the downsides is eventually you're going to reach a limit on the memory. The AI only has a limited memory. It can only remember so much. And even if it can remember all that stuff, it only processes so much information at a time. So even though we can feed all this stuff back in, it's only focusing its attention on certain things. So that's the problem of chat bias. All of this stuff is fed in for every request, and that's not a great way to develop your prompts. A better way to develop your prompts would be to open up a new chat and type in the first part of your prompt. Write a handout for my 8th grade class on the topic of the Civil War. So I'm showing you how to avoid chat bias right now. And so we're like, you know what? I don't really like this. I'd rather have it be 2 paragraphs. So we can take our prompt, we open up a new chat, and we say, make it 2 paragraphs. Yeah, it's not bad. Now we want some discussion questions. So we take our prompt and we open up a new chat and we say, add 5 discussion questions. So what's cool is this single prompt is the only thing being fed back into the AI. And this is the output it's giving us. So we can tell whether or not our prompt is actually working or not. Let's open up another chat. Add 5 multiple choice questions. And I like to go one limitation at a time to see if it actually is doing what I'm asking it to do. Cool. All right, that's working. Now we want the homework, right? Add a 1 paragraph section explaining homework the students need to do, and it should involve a poster board and a 5-minute presentation. Now, you'll notice something. It looks good so far, but did you catch up here how now it's only giving me 1 paragraph? It's not giving me 2. Make it 2 paragraphs. So we didn't get 2 paragraphs. We got 1. So our prompt is having a problem. And it's hard to flesh that out, right, when you're just chatting with the AI. Now we can understand that our prompt has a problem. So let's tweak it. Let's see if we can get our 2 paragraphs again. Make the first section 2 paragraphs. Let's try that. Oh, we modified our prompt. We got it working again. Cool. So this is the proper way to build a prompt inside of ChatGPT and avoid chat bias. But there's an alternative way, which in my opinion is better, although it has pros and cons to it. The negative to building your prompt inside of ChatGPT like this is eventually you're going to have hundreds of these chats and you won't be able to, these all look the same. Like, where am I supposed to go in here? There's no way to organize this. So I don't like building my prompts inside of here. I like building my prompts in a place called the playground. And then when I'm happy with the output, I bring them inside of here. All right, so this is the playground right here. Now the playground allows you to do a couple different things. I'll show you how to get in here in just a minute, but you can select your model and you can enter your prompt. And it's a little bit different. This is made for developers, but normal people like us can use this too. You can enter a prompt up here. You can also enter a prompt down here. And there's a temperature setting, a token setting, and some other settings. It seems a little intimidating, but it's actually not very hard. And most of the settings on here you don't have to mess with. So let's go over here and let's enter our prompt. Write a student handout for my 8th grade class on the subject of the civil of how to spell the Civil War. Now, normally you'd think that you could just click this button and run it, but you can't. If you want to run it with the text up here, you'll just follow this direction down here. I'm on a Mac, so I'll press Command Enter If you're on a PC, it's probably Control Enter. So Command Enter. And here is our outline. Now you'll notice something in here. We have these like hash marks and these asterisks. That's simply markdown format. What markdown format means is like in ChatGPT, this would actually become a bolded heading and this would become bold. So asterisks mean bold, hashtags mean this is a heading. This is a main heading. This is a level 2 subheading because there's 2 hashtags. You don't have to worry about that too much because again, we're just building our prompt in here. But when you see these little characters, I don't want you to be throwing it back and think about what's going on with my output. So we have what we want, all right? But the problem is it's cut off. See how there's like a bullet point down here? It's cut off. That's caused by these tokens. The tokens tell the AI how much output we're allowed to have, all right? I always like to bump this up to 2,500. If you bump this up to 2,500, you won't have anything cut off in here. So we can run this command enter. All right, I'll just stop it right now. If we lower the tokens down to 5 or something like that, and then we run this again, 8th grade, it ran out of room. All right, so I always put this at 2,500 in here. You don't have to mess with any of these other settings. All this stuff over here, you never have to mess with because ChatGPT doesn't have that stuff. All right, the whole reason I'm showing you this is because it's a quicker way to build those custom prompts that we can then take and put into ChatGPT. So the only thing you have to do over here is just set this at 2,500 because the default's 256 and you'll run out of room in here. So we'll also want to select the model. For right now, I'm going to select GPT 3.5 because that's what I'm using inside of ChatGPT. All right, so we got this result. All right, but remember, we wanted 2 paragraphs. So I'll stop this and we'll delete the output. So you can't do that with ChatGPT. You have to open up a new chat. But here you can just delete the output. So we'll modify it. Make the first part 2 paragraphs. And I'll hit Command Enter. Fantastic. So we got 2 paragraphs. Add 5 discussion questions, and we'll delete the output. So inside of the playground, you don't chat with the AI. You generate the result from your prompt, and then you look at the result. And if you're happy, then you can just be done with your prompt. But if you want to modify it, you simply delete the output and modify your prompt again. So we didn't get 2 paragraphs. So there's something wrong with our prompt. All right, so this is a little bit of prompt engineering in here. Let's try this. Start by writing 2 paragraphs. Next, add, how about that? Now it's doing a better job. Cool, I like that. Next, add 5 multiple choice questions. We'll delete our output. We'll run it again. Cool. We got all 5. Next, write a 1 paragraph homework assignment where the students should use poster board and make something so they can give a 5-minute presentation. All right, we'll run this again. I like that. And then finally end with a 1 paragraph dinner table discussion about this topic. Write it casual and laid back. All right, like that. Let's delete our output and we'll run this. So the reason, again, this is avoiding chat bias is because the only thing we're feeding back into the AI is this one section over here. Whereas in ChatGPT, anytime we chat with the AI, we're feeding everything back in. And that's not the best way to build, number one, a prompt that we can repeat, but then also a prompt that actually obeys us. So over here, let's see, we got 1 paragraph again. So that means our prompt needs to be tweaked a little bit. We have our discussion questions. We got multiple choice. We have a homework assignment and a dinner table discussion. Tonight, let's talk about the Civil War. What do you think was the most significant event during the war? Do you think the outcome of the war still affects the United States today? Let's hear everyone's thoughts. That's actually a lot more casual than what ChatGPT was giving us. So what you can do now is you can take this prompt that we've created in the playground and we can go to ChatGPT. We'll open up a new chat. We can paste it in we should get pretty good output from it because we've built it inside of the playground. Now, if you'll notice, it only gave us one paragraph up here. When we ran it in here, it only gave us one paragraph too. So we had to tweak the prompt a little bit. We can, when we're building it this way, we can find out the problems with the prompt and try to fix those things. So over here, even though we have one paragraph, we could theoretically fix that. Discussion questions, multiple choice, homework assignment, dinner table discussion. It looks great. Now, the coolest part of this entire process isn't just a place to build our prompts, but what we get out of it. We have now this cool prompt that the teacher can pull it out next week and open up ChatGPT and paste it in and replace Civil War with the Roman Empire. And then we can get the same thing, but on this new subject. Because now we've built this prompt that's repeatable, that works very well. How cool is that? So that's why I recommend using the playground to build your stuff. Now, a couple housekeeping things, and then I'll show you how to get into the playground. When you build your prompt in the playground, all right, you'll get to choose a model. And there's lots of models in here. And then if you click show more models, you'll see even more models in here, enough to give you a headache. What model should you be selecting? The rule of thumb is create your prompt from the model you plan on using inside of ChatGPT, or use a weaker model to create your prompt and a more powerful model to run your prompt. For example, if you create your prompt in GPT 3.5 and in here it does what you want, you can come over here to ChatGPT and run it in 3.5 and it should do what you want. Likewise, if you build this in GPT 4.0, you should be able to come over here and select GPT 4.0 and run it, and it should give you the same output, the same quality output. What you shouldn't do is select GPT 4 or something like GPT 4 to build this, and then come over here and run it in 3.5. You know how we got one paragraph here? The AI is clearly struggling with this. As we tweak our prompts in GPT 3.5, maybe the AI can finally figure this out and start giving us consistently 2 paragraphs. But if we built that in GPT-4, and now over here we run it in 3.5, the AI might stumble on that. So never run your prompts that you created on a powerful model on a weaker model. But the reverse is true. You can definitely create your prompts on a weaker model like GPT 3.5, and then run them on a more powerful model like GPT-4 or the eventual GPT-5. That's perfectly okay. So you can select your model over here. You enter 2,500 tokens over here. Never need to mess with temperature. Never need to mess with these things because these things are not available inside of ChatGPT. All right. You can, we've been putting our prompt in up here in the system prompt. You can put your prompt in down here. That's perfectly fine too, and run it. Without getting into the weeds, there is a difference between putting your prompt, well, let's delete this, in the user area and putting it in the system area. ChatGPT just has one area to put your prompt. So the rule of thumb is wherever you put your prompt, just be consistent with it. If you put it in the user, just always put it in the user. Don't have stuff in the system and the user, because then you won't know what to do when you come over here to ChatGPT, because there's only one input area. So how do we get into this playground area? What you want to do is you'll want to type platform.openai.com. And if you're logged into ChatGPT, it should take you to this page. Remember, OpenAI is the company that made the playground. They made ChatGPT. They made the AI models. They made all this stuff. So your ChatGPT login should get you to this screen. If it doesn't, you'll just have to create a new account and you'll finally log in. Now, before you can go and use the playground, there's one little difference between ChatGPT and the playground. ChatGPT has a free plan and a paid subscription. The playground is just paid, but it's not a subscription. It's completely unrelated to ChatGPT. If you're paying for a ChatGPT subscription, that does not give you access to the playground. To get access to the playground, you'll click on this gear icon. You'll click on billing, and this menu might have changed. OpenAI changes stuff up every now and then. Click on payment methods, add a payment method. Come over here and you'll throw some credits on your account. And again, this is just if you want to use the playground. You don't have to use the playground. You can come over here and do what we did, which we're slowly adding stuff to our prompts and creating a new chat session. You can build your prompts that way if you really want to. That's the nice, free, and easy way, but it's much more time consuming and it's easy to get confused with kind of what you're doing over here. That's why I like building everything inside of the playground, but it is paid. So once you've added a payment method, You'll add some credits to your account. You don't need much, 10 bucks, something like that. And then you can turn on auto recharge so that when your balance drops below a certain threshold, it adds more money on. Once you've done that, you can then go into the playground and do exactly what we talked about. So high level, again, you don't have to use the playground. The playground just affords you the ability to be more efficient with creating your prompts. You can type your prompt in, an email to my boss about why I am late. We write our prompt and we get our output and we're like, you know what? I don't like this. Let's delete the output, modify our prompt, and try again. So all we're feeding back into the AI is the prompt itself. Now, one last thing I want to mention is this is the third time I've re-recorded this particular lesson. The reason being is OpenAI just recently changed the layout of this playground. What you're looking at right now is the most current layout of this playground, but the previous recording of this course had a layout that looked like this. The system prompt was on the left and the user prompt was on the right. All right, over here, the system prompt is up top, user prompts down here. The model selection was on the right over here in the old layout. In the new layout, the model selection is over here. So if you see me later on in this course use a playground that looks a little bit different than your playground, it's just because they changed the layout. So that wraps up principle number 3. I hope you got a lot out of this. This is such an important concept to understand because it will help you immensely as you create your prompts. And the goal of this course is to help the AI obey you. It's not necessarily to make you a prompt engineer, but I can almost promise you that you'll become a prompt engineer if you just follow these principles. Hey, that's all I got. I hope to see you in a few minutes for principle number 4. Hey, welcome back to the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to talk about avoiding cause and effect ambiguity. This is principle number 4 out of our 15. One of the most important principles, I think. This is something a lot of people don't do at the level they should be doing it at when they're creating a custom prompt. I think we all do this at a high level, but when we want to create a custom prompt, something that we're going to reuse again and again, this becomes that much more critical. So if you're a note taker, if you're taking notes, you're following along, this is the thing you want to write down right here. This is the question you need to ask yourself when you're creating a custom prompt. Do you know what every word in your prompt is actually doing to the output? It's a simple concept, but I think a lot of people don't actually ask it. We'll put the words in, but then we're not actually testing to see what those words are doing. The whole goal of creating a custom prompt is understanding what those words are causing with the output. Maybe we'll go into the prompt and we'll tweak stuff until we're finally satisfied with an output that the AI is giving us. And it can consistently give us that output that we're satisfied with. But what exactly in the prompt is causing that effect that we like? Or is it ambiguous? That's the key question to unpack. So I got a prompt here. Here's an example. I need you to write an email to my boss to explain why I was late today and I couldn't get the report submitted. Tell him that my kid put a squishmallow in the toilet and flushed it and flooded the first floor. If you don't know what a squishmallow is, it's a big fad from a couple of years ago, although they're still popular. If you have a teen, I'm sure your teen has some squishmallows. My daughter has like 30. My niece has like 300. They're very comfortable. They're like overpriced pillows. That's about all they are. The rest of the prompt says, I'll get it turned in 2 days late, so it's not the end of the world. When you write the email, make it professional and polite, but apologetic. Also, don't act too respectful because then it might seem that I'm groveling to him. Make the email about 200 words or less. Okay, that sounds like a pretty good prompt. Let's go over here to the playground. And let me zoom in so you guys can see. So I put the prompt into the playground. Now, let's just get our normal output and see if we like it. All right, so I hope this email finds you well. I'm ready to explain the reason for my tardiness today and consequent delay in submitting the report on time. Unfortunately, my child accidentally flushed a squishmallow down the toilet, causing a flood on the first floor. I had to prioritize addressing the situation, ensuring the safety of my family, which led to me missing the deadline for the report. I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. I take full responsibility. Thank you for your understanding and patience. I don't know. First of all, tardiness. Who speaks like that? That just sounds weird. So in general, it's an email. It's to my boss, dear boss's name. It's not bad. All right. It does address what I told it to, that my kid flushed a squishmallow down the toilet. It expounded upon that, told him I'm sorry for missing the deadline. I'm going to submit it by the end of the 2 days. Thank you for your understanding. And then best regards, your name. It's not a bad email. But what's causing this email to be written this way? So as an example, let's take out the word apologetic. Let's see what we get. So I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. If we take that out, is it still going to say that? Hope this email finds you well. I want to provide an explanation for my tardiness. My child decided to play with a squishmallow and accidentally flushed it down the toilet. I apologize for any inconvenience. That's odd. All right. So here I'm apologizing for the inconvenience, but we took out the word make it apologetic. So what was apologetic actually doing to the output? It's not to say that it wasn't doing anything, but what was it doing? Let's take out make it professional and polite. All right, let's take this whole phrase out. When you write the email, make it professional and polite. Let's see what that does. Just take it all out. See what we get. Hi, boss. Now, that's not very professional. Hope you're doing well. I want to explain why I was late today and couldn't get the report submitted. My kid decided to play a little prank by putting a squishmallow in the toilet. It was quite a mess. I apologize. I'll make sure to get the report turned in 2 days late so we won't fall behind. Thank you for your understanding. Okay, that's not bad. It's a little bit less professional because it says, hi, boss. But this is the process of trying to figure out what's causing the output that we like. Right? So we got the original output back. Let's say that we like this result. Let's pretend we like this result. What's causing this result that we like? What's causing it to give us this format that we like? What words in here are doing that? The apologetic, the professional, the polite, all right? If we take out the word email, will it still know what we're doing? Or is email giving it like a framework to act on? Make the email about 200 words or less. What does this mean? 200 words or less. We can take this, put it into this thing called character counter and look, and we're getting 146 words. We're not getting 200 words. I guess we're getting less than 200 words. But what if we took out the or less? Make the email 200 words. What do we get 200 words? Let's go to character counter. No, we get 158. So what exactly was that doing? So this principle, I want you to start questioning. Like, this is the takeaway right now. When you're creating your prompt, I want you to start questioning what words are causing the output, what words are playing a significant role on the output, what words are doing nothing on the output. Because you'll actually find maybe 90% of the words in your prompt are doing absolutely nothing. And it's not to say that they're bad to have in there, especially if you're chatting with the AI, but it's better to have words in there that are actually doing something than doing nothing. So that's, in a nutshell, avoiding cause and effect ambiguity. Let me give you some tips now to help avoid this. So the first tip is to start small. Write about how to wash a dog. Now, this is a very simple example. But when we tell the AI to do something like this, it's likely going to give us a little paragraph and some steps because it's interpreting this as we want a step-by-step guide. We can run this again just to confirm. You always want to run it a couple times to confirm. And again, we're using the playground in here because we can just delete the output and retry it. There's no prompt bias. So you can run it one more time. So write about how to wash a dog. Because this is asking for kind of a guide, it's going to give us this paragraph and these 4 steps. But what if we changed it and we said, write a paragraph about how to wash a dog? Then we would expect a paragraph. Washing a dog is a necessary part of pet care. To wash a dog, start by brushing their coat. Remove any mats or tangles. Then wet their fur thoroughly with lukewarm water. Apply shampoo. So it's taking us through this entire process, but in paragraph format. But what if we said, write an introduction? You need the tools. In this guide, we'll provide you step-by-step instructions. So now we're no longer taking the user through the entire process. We're just literally writing an introduction here. Now, this is a very simple example, but this demonstrates how the words that we put in here play a significant factor on the type of output that we're getting. Let's tweak this one more time. Let's say, write an introduction for a blog post. What do you think, if you had a guess before I hit submit, what do you think is going to happen? All right, what do you think is going to, let's pull the previous one back here. Write an introduction about how to wash a dog. I'll put for a blog post in. If I delete this and run it again, what is the blog post going to do to the output? Washing a dog might seem like a simple task, but it is important to do correctly to ensure your furry friend stays clean and healthy. Regular baths are essential. In this guide, we will provide you with step-by-step instructions by following these tips. What is this going to do? What do you think? I think it's going to actually use the phrase blog post in here. Let's try it. Giving your furry friend a bath might seem like a daunting task, blah, blah, blah. In this blog post, we will guide you through the step-by-step process. Interesting. So now it's using the, we didn't tell it to use the phrase blog post, but it's using the phrase. Maybe we don't want it to use the phrase blog post. Maybe we're writing introductions and we don't want every single stinking introduction to say the word blog post. We're getting sick and tired of it always saying blog post. So what can we change it to? Write an introduction for an essay. How about that? About how to wash a dog. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to write the word essay in here. That's my hunch. In this essay, we will discuss the proper techniques. Well, geez. So let's take this out. If we take it out, what's it going to do? It's going to say the word guide. In this guide, we will provide you. I've looked at, because with ZimWriter, I do a lot of introductions. That's one of the key points of writing blog post introductions. So I deal with a lot of introductions. So I've learned the nuances of writing introductions, but I'm just trying to show you that the absence of certain words will cause the AI to act a specific way. In this situation, whenever we tell it to write an introduction and nothing else in there, it's going to say guide. And when we say for an essay, it's going to use the word essay instead of guide. When we say the word blog post, it's going to use the word blog post for the guide. All of these are examples of effect that maybe we like or maybe we don't like, but then trying to figure out what's causing that effect. That makes sense? All right, so we went through this. And if we change the introduction, we said write an introduction for a Facebook post. We change that up. Let's just say Facebook post. Write a Facebook post about how to wash a dog. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is the big thing that's going to happen here? I would argue it would be emojis and hashtags. Oh, there's no hashtags here. I got one emoji. Let's try one more time. Interesting. If I say write a paragraph for a Facebook post, I think then we'll get some hashtags. There we go. Okay. Got an emoji and some hashtags at the end. So I want you to start small. Start very high level. Write about how to wash a dog. All right. Check out what kind of output you're getting. And then tweak it a little bit. Add another limitation. Add another phrase. Add another word. And eventually you'll get to something that's more complex, something like this, that's doing exactly what you want. And then you can reuse that again and again. It becomes your own custom template. That is how you learn to prompt it very well. Now, this second tip is making small changes and retrying 5 times. We did talk about making changes. You want to start with something that's simple like this, because if you start with something long to begin with, you don't know what you're going to change. And if you change something, that might be not the thing that's actually causing the particular effect that you like or don't like, right? But when you do change something, you want to retry it 5 times. Retrying means we come in here and we click submit, say, okay, this is what it's doing. Let me delete it and run it again. You run it a couple times just to ensure that on average, it's creating the effect that you like or don't like. But you have to take that average, because sometimes the AI just will do something different each time. So make small changes and retry the prompt a couple times. And then test different locations. This is something that you might not know about, but sometimes the location of a limitation in the prompt can dramatically change the resulting output. I've noticed from 3 years of prompting and then also creating my own AI software that the location of limitations can play a big factor. And the location either at the end or at the beginning is the most important. Think of the AI kind of like a child. The child wants to please you. It's going to try to do everything you ask it to do, but it can only remember so many things. When you tell a child something, I want you to go to the store and I want you to buy all these things. And also don't forget the tomatoes, buy the tomatoes. what's a kid going to remember? He's going to remember to go to the store. That's the first rule. And he's going to remember tomatoes. Everything in between, he's probably going to forget. The AI is a little bit better than that, but it's just like a child. The things at the beginning they usually remember, the things at the end they usually remember. So let's take this prompt and say, I need you to write an email. Let's say write a 3-paragraph email to my boss. So let's try that. 1, 2, I got 2 paragraphs. Now, again, we're going to try it 3 times. Just take the average. Try it 5 times. Getting 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs. So it looks like it's not obeying me here. It's not giving me the 3 paragraphs that I want. Now, what's it doing? I don't know. I don't know what adding that is doing. Maybe it's not doing anything. But we can take this out. We can try adding it down here. Write 3 paragraphs. We'll put it that's the last limitation at the end down here. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, I only get 2. Now this is another trick we can try. We can try the number 3, write 3 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3. Oh, now we're getting 3. I've noticed that too. Sometimes when you change the word form of a number to the actual number, it works better. So we did get 3, but then it's going back to 2. So it looked like it affected it a little bit, but it's not consistent enough. Now we get 3 right there. But sometimes that happens. Sometimes when we try to get the AI to do something, it just doesn't want to obey. See, now it gives us 3. So it seems like having it down here is helping a little bit, and making it the number 3 is helping a little bit, but it's still not as consistent as I would like. That kind of brings me to the 4th tip is try using different models. I always create my prompts using GPT 3.5 Turbo because number one, GPT-4 is more expensive from a computation standpoint. So GPT 3.5 is a lot faster, and if you use ChatGPT, it's free. You can use it as much as you want. Whereas GPT-4 is limited on the number of times you can use it. It takes longer to generate stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So I usually build all my stuff on GPT 3.5 Turbo. And if I know if it works there, it's going to work on GPT-4 most likely. Okay. So I'll build all my stuff on there. And then if the need arises, I'll use it on GPT-4. But you don't want to do the reverse though. You don't want to first build it on GPT-4 and then try to use it on GPT 3.5. Okay. So build all your stuff on 3.5, then use it on 4 if you need to or if you want to. So let's switch the model up here to GPT-4. And I can almost guarantee you it's going to write us our 3 paragraphs just like we want. So we have our 3 paragraphs now. And I would imagine it's probably closer to 200 words, 175. So it's getting a little bit closer in word count also. Let's try it again. Get our 3 paragraphs. Okay. So it works really well on GPT-4. So that's the 4th tip, to use different models to see if maybe on 3.5 it's struggling with what a particular word or a particular term is doing to the output, but on GPT-4 it can do a lot better of a job with that. So that wraps up the principle of avoiding cause and effect ambiguity. The next lesson, we're going to dive into subjective and objective words, another very important lesson. Hope you're excited, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about principle number 5, which is understand subjective versus objective words. I really like this principle because it's something I have to use every single day. I've been looking at the meaning of words and how to interpret them. That's exactly what the AI does. The AI will look at our words and try to interpret them. And some words will have a very clear meaning, but other words, the AI will have to take its best guess or formulate an opinion, and that opinion could be different from our opinion on the meaning of the word. And so when we want the AI to do something specific, and it gives us a different kind of output or a different kind of result, it could very well be because we're using a subjective versus an objective word. So let's talk about what the difference between both these types of words are. An objective word, or a word classified as objective, is a word that has a clear, precise definition that doesn't change based on your personal preferences or your experiences. As an example, let's say you gather 100 people from all over the world in a room and you ask them, what does this word mean? 95% or maybe 100% of them would all reach the same conclusion, the word means blank. They'd all have the same answer. Subjective words are completely different though. A subjective word doesn't have a universally agreed upon meaning, and it hinges based on personal preferences and opinions and maybe even where you live. So if you get that same group of 100 people in the room, you ask them, what does this word mean? You're going to get 100 different answers. So in a nutshell, that's the difference between subjective and objective words. Now, let me give you a couple examples just to hammer the point home. Now, I want you to squint your eyes so it gets kind of blurry. I don't want you to be able to read the text. I just want you to be able to see a color I'm going to show you. All right, so squint your eyes. No cheating. Squint your eyes. And keep them squinted until I say, Simon says unsquint, okay? All right, hope they're squinted. What color do you see on the screen right now? On the right-hand side of the screen, what color do you see? All right, Simon says you can unsquint your eyes. If you answered red, then you're right. I can almost guarantee you almost everybody that's taking this course would have answered red because that's an objective word. What color is the ball? The color is red. All right, we're not getting into any of those nonsense Crayola colors. The color is candy apple red or none of that nonsense, okay? The ball is red, end of story. What are some other examples of objective words? On a clear day, in the middle of the day, what color is the sky? The sky's blue. My name's Matt. All right, what's my name? My name is Matt. How old am I? My age is 45. What's my age? It's 45. Those are all examples of objective words. Now, this is an example of a subjective word, and I've gotten into trouble myself with this. So your spouse asks, how do they look in an outfit? And you respond with the stereotypical good. I've done it myself. My wife will say, how do I look? I'm like, you look good. And she does. She looks good. Wears basically anything. She looks good. There's some outfits I don't like, but in general, 99% of the time, I tell her she looks good. But good can mean all kinds of different things to her, all right? And I don't have an answer. I don't have a way out of that because if I say, oh, wow, you look really good, she'll think I'm faking it. So I don't know. I don't have a solution to that one. But that's just an example of a subjective word. There's all kinds of other examples. Am I old? I don't know. I'm 45. Is that old or is that young? Maybe to like a 25-year-old, right? 45 is old. I remember when I was in my 20s, somebody in my age right now would be very old. They'd be at the end of their life. But I feel like I'm not at the end of my life, hopefully. And maybe a 60-year-old would think I'm young and not old. So it's all based on perspective and perception. What else? How do you feel today? I feel happy. What does happy mean? Are you like, happy can mean different things to different people. So all these types of words are words that have different meanings to different people based on different perceptions and life experiences. All right. So we're going to do a little exercise now. This should be some fun. I have this prompt here. Let me read it to you. I want to read it and then we'll do something cool. I want you to assume, and this is a real prompt. This is a prompt I got from somewhere. I want you to assume the role of a highly skilled marketing expert and exceptional copywriter with fluent English. Pretend that you have the ability to create content of such high quality that it can outperform competing websites so that your quality appears first on Google. I understand that there are numerous factors affecting how high a website appears on Google, and your goal is to focus on generating the finest content possible. Please compose an extensive, well-structured article in English using excellent formatting about the subject of how to get into college with poor grades. The article should be packed with thorough, detailed paragraphs and abundant specifics. If applicable, include a diagram with excellent formatting and colors. Avoid echoing my instructions, reminding me of my request, apologizing, or self-referencing. Refrain from employing generic filler phrases. Utilize purposeful subheadings with keyword-rich titles. Be precise and accurate and do not provide explanations for what and why. Simply deliver the most outstanding article possible. Okay, so that's the prompt. What I want you to do, I want you to pause the video, and I want you to, preferably if you could screenshot this or print this out, because I want you to mark it up. Any subjective words that you see, I want you to strike through. And if the entire sentence is like the whole context and everything in it is just subjective phrases and words, then strike the whole sentence out. And I want to compare notes, okay? So this is like a little in-class homework for you. So pause the video right now, pause the video, and then we'll circle back and look at our results, okay? So pause the video. Okay, and now we can look at the results. So the stuff in yellow are the subjective words that I found. And the struck out stuff in white are sentences that were just so full of subjective words that there was no point in keeping the sentence, okay? So we'll go through this. I want you to assume the role of a highly skilled marketing expert. So there's two questions we ask here when we're looking from a prompting standpoint. Number one, what does it mean? And number two, what does the AI think it means? So what do you think a highly skilled marketing expert means? Does it mean a marketing person who's gone to college, or a marketing expert who has 4 years of real life experience, or maybe a marketing veteran that's been in the business for 20 years? What does highly skilled actually mean? I think you get 100 people together, they're all going to say different things. And then the follow-up question is, what does the AI think that means? And the twisting your brain right here, the crazy question is, if we removed this and we put in, I want you to assume the role of a marketing expert with 5 years of experience, or I want you to assume the role of a marketing expert with a college degree and a PhD, what would it do different? Think about that one for a minute. Maybe test it out if you want to. And exceptional copywriter. So not just a copywriter, but an exceptional copywriter. What does that mean? What does the word exceptional copywriter mean? With fluent English, okay? The AI is naturally going to write in English as it creates her output. But what does fluent mean? All of the output that I've ever gotten from the AI is fluent. I've never gotten broken English out from the AI. Maybe you have. I never have. The AI doesn't write in broken English. So we don't really need that. Pretend that you have the ability to create content of such high quality that it can outperform competing websites, so that I think this means your content appears higher or first on Google. Okay. What does content of such high quality mean? The context is that it can outperform competing websites. But what does that mean? Outperform how? Outperform appearing first on Google, appearing on the first page of Google, appearing in position 12 on Google. And then what type of quality is required to outperform the websites? Does it need to be a specific length, like 5,000 words? Does it need to cover certain things that the other websites don't? What exactly does such high quality mean? I don't know. So we took this whole sentence out. I understand that there are numerous factors affecting how high a website appears on Google, and your goal is to focus on generating the finest content possible. All right, what does that mean? What is the finest content possible? I don't know. If you came to me and said, Matt, generate the finest content possible, I'd be like, what do you want me to do? Just work my best? Is that what you want? The AI doesn't get tired. It's not going to become lazy on us. Is it going to do something differently when we add this in here? So I think we can strike the entire sentence out. Please compose an extensive, well-structured article in English. All right, extensive. So what does that mean? For you, maybe an extensive article means 1,000 words. Maybe for somebody else, an extensive article means 50,000 words. I don't know. And then what does the AI interpret that to mean? A well-structured article in English. What does well-structured mean? I don't know. You get 100 people in the room and you say, give me an example of what a well-structured article means. You're going to get 100 different responses. Article in English using excellent formatting. What the heck does excellent formatting mean? Are you getting it now? Are you seeing how like subjective words can creep into your article and you're really not sure what they are, what they mean, what they're doing, or how the AI is even interpreting them? So I don't know what excellent formatting is. About the subject of how to get into college with poor grades, the article should be packed with thorough, detailed paragraphs. All right. Every paragraph I've ever had the AI write is thorough, and every paragraph the AI has ever written is detailed. What does a non-detailed paragraph look like? Is it one sentence? I don't know. Is it maybe a detailed paragraph is 5 sentences? What does a thorough paragraph mean and a not thorough paragraph? I don't know. And abundant specifics. So we don't just want specifics, we want abundant specifics. When do specifics become abundant? When there's 5 specifics, when there's 10 specifics, when there's 100 specifics. I don't know, but whatever it is, they want abundant specifics. If applicable, include a diagram with excellent formatting. There's our excellent formatting again. I don't know what that means. Refrain from employing generic filler phrases. What is a generic filler phrase? Maybe for you, a generic filler phrase means one thing, but for someone else, it means something entirely different. Utilize purposeful subheadings. So what is a purposeful subheading? I think every subheading is there on purpose, but when does a subheading that's there become purposeful? I don't know. I don't know what purposeful even means. With keyword-rich titles. I know what this means, but the definition is still very subjective. Be precise and accurate and do not provide explanation. These could probably be subjective also. Do not provide explanations for what and why. Simply deliver the most outstanding article possible. What the heck does that mean? I don't know. And how's the AI going to act differently when it reads that? I don't know either. So here's the result after we've removed all of the subjective words and phrases. I want you to assume the role of a marketing expert and copywriter. Please compose an article in English about the subject of how to get into college with poor grades. If applicable, include a diagram and color. Avoid echoing my instructions, reminding me of my request, apologizing or self-referencing. Be precise and accurate and do not provide explanations for what and why. Now, I want to be clear. Subjective words are not bad, and we didn't remove them from here because they are bad. We were simply doing an exercise to help you identify what subjective words were, all right? Because one of the main goals will be for you when you're creating a prompt that you want the AI to obey is to start with objective words if possible. Use words and phrases that are objective and then slowly add in those subjective words, okay? So we're not saying subjective words are bad, but we're saying don't start with them because then you just get this mishmash of all kinds of different stuff and you're not really sure. We go back to the previous principle. We're not really sure what's doing what with the output. What's the cause that's creating the effect? So let me give you some tips. Try creating your prompt using only objective words first. So we could probably go back here. See, I want you to assume the role of a this is, again, we were just removing subjective words, but this in reality probably doesn't do much. Please compose an article in English. That probably does not do much, but we want the subject of how to get into college with poor grades. That's the important key right here. We want an article about this subject. All this other stuff doesn't really do very much, but that wasn't the point of this lesson. Let's go to the playground and let's put this in here. Write an article on the subject of how to get into college with poor grades. And now let's run this. So getting into college with poor grades can be a daunting task. First and foremost, one way to mitigate the impact. Another key factor. Cool, we got like a whole little blog post about this. Now we can add some objective words to this. We could say, write in first person voice, use contractions, and use one metaphor in the first sentence. So we've added some objective words to it. Getting into college with poor grades can feel like trying to climb a mountain with one shoe on. Okay, there's our metaphor. Let's see if there's any, you don't know what a contraction is. It's like an IT apostrophe S. Let's see, it is. So we didn't get that. We got one down here. I've noticed sometimes with contractions, the AI sometimes misses some, but we have finally don't be afraid. So do not. There's a contraction. And I don't see any first person, some I usage. Oh, I can offer some advice. So there's our first person. Okay, perfect. So these are all examples of objective words that we've added into our prompt right here. Now let's add a subjective word. Let's say, write in a tone that is happy. Right, now that would be a subjective word, happy. What does happy mean? I don't know. And then the follow-up question is, how is the AI going to interpret that request, that prompt? So let's see. As the saying goes, life is just like a roller coaster ride, and boy, have I been on a wild one. There's our first person, there's our metaphor, there's our contractions. Now, where is the happy? What does happy mean? What should we be looking for to see how the AI is interpreting this and what it's doing? When I think of happy, I think of a mood. I'm mentally happy. So how do we express that on paper? Network can be key. So while my path to college may have a few more twists and turns than some, I am determined to make it happen with hard work and dedication and a positive attitude. Maybe that's how the AI is interpreting happy. Let's see what else. I don't see a lot of other ways we could spin this as happy. Doesn't look sad. Looks optimistic a little bit. Next, be sure to highlight your strengths. Are you involved in extracurricular activities? Do you volunteer in your community? Don't be afraid to consider alternative paths to college. Just remember, it's not about where you start, but where you finish. So I don't know. It's a little optimistic down here. Maybe we can remove the happy tone and see what we get. Kind of compare and contrast. There's our metaphor. As someone who struggled academically in school, I understand the challenges that come. However, I have learned that there are still ways to reach your educational goals, even if your grades are not perfect. Yeah, no, it's still optimistic. I don't really know what happy is doing in this case. So this is an example where the usage of the subjective word by the AI is unclear. So that's why you want to try creating your prompt using only objective words at first, and then slowly add in your subjective words. So try adding one subjective word at a time and testing it 5 times. We did that with happy, but we weren't quite sure what was going on, which brings us to the third tip, which is sometimes try asking the AI what it thinks a subjective word means. So we can go to the AI here and we can say, what does the word happy mean to you if I asked you to write an article in a style that was happy? Write response using 1 paragraph. So we can ask the AI what this means. Now, realize it's going to say some stuff here, but it doesn't necessarily mean this is some kind of rule in its memory, and this is exactly what it's doing. But maybe this is a flavor of what the AI is doing when it uses our prompt that has the word happy in it, okay? So happiness is a state of being that fills one's heart with warmth and positivity. So there's positivity, like rays of golden sunshine on a sunny day. It's a feeling of contentment that brings joy and smile to your face. All right, life is brighter. So there's positivity. Let's try it one more time. A state of pure joy, contentment, positivity that uplifts the soul and fills one's heart. Okay, so there's some positivity. So when we run the prompt again, we can look for positivity. With determination, hard work, and a sprinkle of creativity, you can still open the door to higher education and produce. Maybe that is that positivity. Maybe it's coming through more when we use the word happy. So that's one of the tips that you can use to figure out how the AI is interpreting a particular subjective word if you're not quite sure. And another tip would be using the subjective word in a different context or prompt to test. So we can go back here and we can change this to why I am angry at my dog because he ate my homework. So we can get our baseline going, remove the happy bit. So we have our baseline. We've changed the subject to something that would normally be not happy, okay? I'm so angry at my dog right now because he ate my homework. It feels like a knife twisting in my gut. I can see him now innocently wagging his tail, looking up at me with his big brown eyes to say, what's the big deal? But oh, it is a big deal. I know he's just a dog acting on instinct, unaware of the consequences of his actions, but that doesn't make me any less furious. As I try to piece together what remains of my assignment, I can't help but wonder if there's some kind of cosmic joke. So here I sit, fuming and frustrated, left to face the consequences of my dog's misdeed. There's no happiness in that. There's no happiness that I can see at all. Let's do one more generation just to see. It's like watching your trusty sidekick turn into a villain in a superhero movie. Sure, I could blame myself, but all I can think about right now is how I have to start from scratch. I know he didn't mean to cause trouble. I know he probably thought he was just playing the new chew toy, but in the grand scheme of things, I can't but help feeling a sense of injustice. Okay, no happiness, no optimism, no positivity. Let's add in our happy now, right? In a tone that is happy. I know he's just a dog and he doesn't understand the concept of homework, but still it's frustrating to have to redo everything because of his little snack attack. But do you know what? Despite my frustration, I can't stay mad at him for too long. He may have eaten my homework, but he also brings so much joy and laughter into my life. It's not hard to stay upset when he looks at me with those big, guilty eyes and tries to lick my face to apologize. So even though I'm annoyed at the moment, I can't but help forgive him. Let's do one more generation just to test. I'm so angry. but despite my frustration, I can't stay mad for too long. He's just a silly pup who doesn't know any better. So it seems like when we add the word happy, right, a tone that is happy, it's having an ending to the piece that's optimistic, that has some positivity in there, okay? See how that works? So just to recap our tips, try creating your prompt using only objective words at first. Strip out, just like we did in this example, strip out all the subjective words, leaving you just with the objective words. Start with that, start small, and then gradually add your subjective words if you need to. Maybe you don't need to. Maybe the AI is giving you great output, all right? And then try asking the AI what it thinks a subjective word means, because that might help give you some idea on what's actually happening with the prompt. And then finally, try using the subjective word in a different context or prompt to test to see what exactly the subjective word is doing. That can give you some good advice, good tips. All right, wow, so that covered a lot of stuff. That was a big lesson right there, a lot of meat packed into that, but it was so important. This is one of the most important principles that we're going to learn, but we have a lot more cool principles coming. So get ready for the next lesson. Maybe go grab a drink, maybe take a little break, but come on back and we'll dive right into principle number 6. Hey, and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about principle number 6, which is avoiding too many instructions. So there comes a point as you're creating your custom prompts that they're going to get larger and the AI will no longer follow what you're asking it to do. And you might be left scratching your head with wondering, all right, what's going wrong here? Why is the AI not obeying me? And what can I do to solve it? So I want to talk about why that might be happening and then give you some tips on how to avoid that. So one of the first reasons why the AI might not be following your directions after your prompt has grown in size is because of the model you're using. If you're using GPT 3.5, it's not as capable of following all your directions as GPT-4. Again, if we're thinking about these models as brains, the brain for 3.5 is smaller. It's not as developed, so to speak, as GPT-4. So GPT-4 can do a lot more than GPT 3.5, but it's also more expensive from a server usage standpoint to run. And that's why your usage is going to be limited inside of ChatGPT to paid members and then only so many runs per couple hours. Number one, the model you choose, you're running your prompt with, could be the cause at why it's not following all the directions you're asking it to do. The second reason could just be because you have too many directions in there. Even GPT-4 can only handle so many instructions at a time. Now, the next reason might be the instructions cost. When you give the AI these instructions or directions inside of your prompt, each instruction has a different cost associated with it. I'm not talking about a financial cost, but more like a mental process cost. And it's hard, it's not as straightforward. It doesn't translate completely to how the mental cost would be for us to do. But as an example, if I ask you to write an essay, okay, about the Civil War, like you personally, not the AI, and I said, I want you to do 3 things. I want you to put your name on the paper, write a 5-page essay, and then sign your name at the end. Mentally, what's the hardest part about that? It's writing the paper itself, okay? So just like that, the AI has certain instructions that are more mentally taxing on it than others. And it doesn't it doesn't translate to content length or things like that, but there's just some instructions that are more difficult for the AI to follow when they're couched with all these other rules and instructions. One example would be, don't use certain words, like this negative prompting where we're saying, don't use these particular words. Or when we tell it to write X number of paragraphs, write 4 paragraphs, no more, no less. That can take a lot of brain power for the AI to do. So again, there's certain things, certain instructions that you might be giving the AI that are more mentally taxing than other ones. And then finally, the instructions location. I believe I touched on this before, but in your prompt, sometimes the AI will do a better job at following instructions at the beginning of the prompt and at the end, and not so much in the middle of the prompt. So I always like to put my important instructions at the very end of the prompt and my contextual instructions at the beginning and my semi-important, but not break your bank type of instructions in the middle of it. So let's look at a couple examples here. I have this long prompt that, and this is not a prompt that we would normally use. There's stuff in here that doesn't make sense, but I wanted to break the AI and just feed it something really hard that it would need to do. So write an introduction for a blog post titled How to Wash a Dog, write in a second person tone of voice. So there's our first direction. Start the introduction by, I think this should be discussing an interesting statistic. All right. The introduction should also use persuasive language and a touch of humor, but do not use any exclamation points. The introduction should be 3 paragraphs and a total of 75 words. Also, the first word, so this is a really tricky one. The first word of the introduction should be did, and the first word of the last sentence in the introduction should be now. So first word of the introduction should be did, first word of the last sentence should be now. Also, use the word expert 3 times in the introduction. Do not use the words daunting, delve, dive, etc., etc. End the introduction with a suggestion that the reader should continue reading and learn more, but don't use the word reading or read. Somewhere in the introduction, mention that we are a company called ABC Dog Care and know all about washing dogs based on our 15 years of experience. And we're also located in Dallas, Texas. So mention that too. Okay, long convoluted prompt. Obviously, there's things in here. Who cares if we start the thing with did and now? But I'm doing this to show you that there's a point at which the AI can no longer obey you. Now, this example here is using GPT 3.5. So we have context is about how to wash a dog. It is in the second person tone of voice. It does start with an interesting statistic. Did you know that 80% of dog owners struggle with washing their furry friends? Okay. The introduction should also use persuasive language and a touch of humor. And that's hard. That's one of those like subjective words or phrases. What does that actually mean? So that might come out and be more evident or less evident inside of here. But do not use any exclamation points. Okay. I think we got one. Yep, at the very end, we got an exclamation point. So it couldn't follow that rule. The introduction should be 3 paragraphs and a total of 75 words. It looks closer to 75 words than 3 paragraphs. Also, the first word of the introduction should be did. So we have that. And the first word of the last sentence in the introduction should be now. So the last sentence is right here, but this is continue. The sentence before that is now. So it's trying to inject that now, but it couldn't quite make the leap and do that in the last sentence. Also use the word expert 3 times. We have expert, expertise. And sometimes the AI will do that. It will just rephrase the word to a different type, but it's still the base word. And then expert. So we technically have it 3 times. Do not use the word daunting, delving, dive, buckle up, hey there, crucial, discover. I think we're pretty good in that respect. Somewhere in the intro, mention that we're a company, ABC Dog Care, 15 years of experience, and Dallas, Texas. So it did a really good job of the stuff at the beginning and the stuff at the end. But like the 3 paragraphs, 75 words, it struggled on. The now at the last sentence, it couldn't do it. And there's an exclamation point in there. Okay. So we then switched and used GPT-4 on this. So this time we get more than 75 words, but we do get 3 paragraphs in here. I don't see any exclamation points. The last paragraph starts with now, not the last sentence. So it couldn't accomplish this. And I forget expert. Let's see, expertise 1, 2. I see 2. Okay. So we used obviously the more expensive, more costly model, and it still could not do it. So what are some tips to correct this and make the AI better follow our directions when we start getting too many rules and instructions? So the first thing you can do is you can try a numeric list of instructions. Sometimes the AI will do a lot better when we start to number these things out. I changed that initial prompt now to write an introduction for a blog post titled How to Wash a Dog. Write in a second person tone of voice, follow these steps. Usually I'll say steps, sometimes I'll say instructions or directions, okay? And then we'll just give it this numeric list. Now, it's important to, based on my experience, to logically order this. So we'll have the part that talks about how it's going to start at the very beginning. We'll have the usage of the last word in the last sentence, or the first word of the last sentence down here at the last instruction. So we're going to order this as logically as possible. So we have start the introduction by discussing an interesting statistic, use persuasive language and a touch of humor, write the word expert 3 times. The first word of the introduction should be did, and the introduction with the suggestion to continue reading. The first word of the last sentence should be now. Okay, so we've just broken it apart. I didn't tweak too much stuff. All right, I just made it flow a little bit better. And now we have, it looks like 75 words. We don't have 3 paragraphs, but now the last sentence is starting with the word now. And also we don't have any exclamation points. So we have our statistics. We have ABC dog care, 15 years of experience, Dallas, Texas, no exclamation points, beginning with now, or did, and then beginning with now, and then no AI words in here. And we're using GPT 3.5, okay? And I ran this a couple times just to confirm that this prompt was consistently providing me good output. But we can keep dialing this in a little bit more. There's another tip that we can do, and that is reducing subjective word usage. So go back, look at principle number 5. Now, there were not a lot of subjective words in here. Let's see. I rephrased this first part right here. It was wordy, and I took this part and I brought it up here. So now I just have the first sentence should start with the word did and discuss an interesting statistic. And then I brought the 3 paragraph, 75 words up here. We had a 3 paragraph, 75 word introduction. Do not use any exclamation points. So I just cleaned up the language a little bit, and it did a really good job. Here's our statistic: ABC dog care, 15 years experience, Dallas, Texas, no exclamation points, did, and now. So it's following that very well. The other thing you can do is tighten up cause and effect. Regardless of what we tried, it was not giving us 3 paragraphs. We were asking for 3 paragraphs in 75 words, which is essentially 1 sentence per paragraph. It just was unable to do that. And so I just decided to pick one, 3 paragraphs or 75 words. And I went with the 75 words, and I removed the 3 paragraph one because now it's going to be consistent. If we left that in and we ran this under GPT-4, remember what happened before? We very well might get 3 paragraphs. So the whole name of the game with creating your custom prompts is to be consistent. So now we're consistent. We want the 75 words. Shouldn't matter if you run it under 3.5 turbo or GPT-4, you're going to get the 75 words. I don't know if I removed anything else. Let's see. Should have had these side by side. I didn't really remove much else. And then the last thing that you can do is you can use prompt stacking. I don't think we really need to do that at this point because we have a custom prompt here, and we can change some of this up dynamically, like with placeholders and whatnot, to have this apply to different contexts. So I don't think we necessarily need to stack a prompt, but what prompt stacking would be, of course, is once you get this output, we would then take this output, put it over here, put a second prompt down here, and run the second prompt with just a single rule or something like that. When you run a rule all by itself, then the AI can devote 100% of its brain power to carrying out that one rule, that one direction. If you have a rule or a limitation inside of your custom prompt that whatever you try, it just will not carry it out, then add that as simply a second prompt. Unfortunately, it does take more time, but it will, in fact, do the trick. And this actually works quite well with ChatGPT. You start with your initial prompt, it gives you the output, and then you run the second prompt inside of there. So that would work too if you don't want to use the playground. All right, so that's principle number 6 in a nutshell. Be aware that once you get too many instructions in your prompt, the AI will stop following them. And I hope you've learned some tips and tactics on how to avoid that situation and overcome it. And now let's move on to principle number 7. Hey, and welcome back to the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to talk about principle number 7, and this is use prompt formatting. So this principle is something you don't want to use it all the time. A good rule of thumb is as your prompt gets larger and as you're bringing into your prompt more data and more rules, then you'll want to start thinking about whether or not you should use prompt formatting to create your prompt or not. So the long and short of it is simply, when we have a lot of data, the AI can better understand that data, all the different types of data, and then also our instructions, what we want the AI to do with that data, when we have a format that the AI can then follow. And there's like separations or groupings between the different elements of the prompt that we're feeding the AI. It might sound a little difficult, but it's pretty easy. What we're going to do is we're going to actually have a fun little demonstration where we're going to build a cover letter. I thought that'd be a really great example, something really practical that a lot of people might need to learn how to do. Or maybe you're teaching somebody how to build a cover letter. You can show them exactly how to do it. You could be a wizard of AI now that you know how to use prompt formatting to build a cover letter. So let me show you how to do that. And I think it will really help explain what a prompt format is and when you should be using it. So this is a cover letter I wrote. Now this is like dynamic, so it's today, but I actually wrote this back in 2006. I graduated law school and I was looking for some law firms to apply to. And it's still hard applying to jobs. You're writing hundreds and hundreds of letters to all these different companies, and you don't have the time to write, unless you're like a novelist, and I'm not, to write something completely bespoke for every company. So you have your basic template down, and then you dynamically replace, or manually, various elements in. And you got to be really careful you don't accidentally put the wrong company name in to a different company that you're mailing this to. So there's a lot of checks that you got to keep track of, and it's hard, especially for people like me that kind of miss stuff like this. I think I did get one nasty email from a law firm when I addressed it to law firm A, but then in the middle of it referenced law firm B. So yeah, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. But coming up with these can be quite challenging, especially if you're not a good writer. So we could possibly use AI now to help us with that, and maybe create a rough draft that we can at least start with and add our own spin to it. Now, let me walk through how I structure a cover letter, because there are thousands of different ways to do it. So the reason I structure it this way is because I studied lots of other cover letters for law firms, but this is also completely applicable to other non-law related companies too. You would just have to fill in your own specific details. But what I'll typically have is my address up here, and then the name of the company I'm applying to with the contact individual, and then dear Mr. Contact. And then I'll basically say in the first paragraph that why I am writing to them. I'm writing to apply for this position at your firm that I saw listed at Indeed.com or something like that. And then basically who I am. I'm a 2006 graduate of UT College of Law. I'm a member of the Bar Association. So the second paragraph is where you tell them why you're specifically interested in their company or their law firm. And this is important because, number one, everybody likes to hear about themselves. You don't want to just talk about yourself all the time. Talk about them a little bit. Explain why their company or their law firm is so appealing to you. And it makes you seem a little bit more interested, and not like you're spamming the world with these applications, even though, wink, wink, everybody knows you are. So I'm particularly interested in Jim Bob Law Firm because I'd like to practice at a small firm. The city of Toledo appeals to me because I intend to primarily reside near a city that offers Tony Paco's hot dogs. Okay, there you go. The third paragraph is where I'm going to talk about my experience so far. So I'm fresh out of law school in 2006. I have no experience, but I'm going to talk about my classes and what I did inside of school. And then also I'm going to talk about how I can apply this to the job position. So that's paragraph number 4. How can my experience help your company? And then finally, I'll close with, I'd like the opportunity to meet with you to further discuss my qualifications. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely. So the AI is just a really great tool to help you come up with that first draft. All right. So here's what we need. How do we get it? First of all, we need a person, because I'm not going to apply as myself, because what fun would that be? So we have Tim Smith here. So Tim Smith is a graduate of Princeton University, very smart chap. He is a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics, concentration on education, graduation 2015, magna cum laude, excellent awarding mathematics, Pi Beta Kappa, lots of different extracurriculars. Here's his address, certifications, his emphasized courses, etc., etc. Even did a study abroad in London. Wow. So this is a guy anyone would want to hire if you're hiring somebody for mathematics. He wants to get a job in education. He wants to become a teacher, very honorable degree. Now, I've put all this data in here. There's no specific format for this. I could have technically written this in paragraph format. I am Tim Smith. I graduated from Princeton University. But sometimes that takes more brain power than simply giving it a title for a field, name, colon, and then what it is. University, Princeton University, New Jersey's National Dean's List Award. When you format it like this, it makes it easier for the AI to follow. Again, you can format this any way you want, but this is something I've learned over time that this is a good format. Now, we don't really need these little dashes in here. We could remove those if we wanted to. So I have this information here. I can come over here to the playground. And I can just paste it in right there. Okay. Now we need to find a job that Tim is going to apply to. So I went to Indeed and I found a math teacher job in Michigan. This is Orchard Center High School. They're hiring for a math teacher position. Look at the qualifications down here. High school teaching mathematics. Orchard Center High School is looking for a math teacher for the 23-24 school year. So this kind of talks about the company. Now, it's not really a company, it's a school, but I always like to have something in my prompt about the company or about whoever I'm applying to so that I can make this a little bit more personal. And then here's the details about the job description, the purpose, essential functions, qualifications. Awesome. So all I'll do is simply take this stuff right here and I will go over here and paste it in. Okay. Now we have a bunch of data in here so far. We haven't really told the AI what we want, but before we go any further, we have a problem. How does the AI know where the information about me begins and ends and the information about the job starts? So this is where prompt formatting comes in handy. What I would typically do, you can do this one of two ways. So what I like to do is put delimiters into my prompts to separate the different data elements. A delimiter is simply a string of characters, words, letters, numbers, characters, to help the AI better understand where the separations in the data are. So we want to tell the AI that this is information about me, and this is information about the job that we're applying to. So we could put up here my experience. Let's do all caps. We want it to be a little bit different than the data itself, okay? But if we just say up here, my experience, all right, the AI might struggle with understanding like where this ends. Is this all my experience? Or is it, because everything down here is like university colon. It's not significant enough to help the AI understand. So let's try all caps, my experience. And that's better, okay? But the problem is like down here, we have job description and that's already in all caps, okay? We need something a little bit more for our delimiter. So usually I'll do one of two things. I'll put 2 hashtags in, my experience, okay? And then I'll come down to the next part, which would be job description. Put 2 more hashtags in, job description. Now, just for clarity, I would remove this. So there's no redundancy. And so the AI can now see that this section here is about my experience. And this section here is about job description. That's one way to do it. Another way you could do it is you could put brackets around this. My experience, enclosed in brackets with a colon right there. Job description. There you go. Which is better? In general, both of them are just fine to use, but realize that if you have other things in here that follow this formatting, so if you had something like position purpose in here, then that might confuse the AI. So make sure whatever you're using, whether you're using double hashtags or maybe even triple hashtags, or you're using these brackets, they're unique and they're only used for your delimiters. So right now we have an area that the AI can grasp is just about your experience and an area that's just about the job description. Okay. Now we need some rules, some instructions to give the AI. Now let me switch my head over here. There you go. Now you can see what's going on down here. We want to put in some instructions. All right, so these will be the instructions that the AI will follow as it carries out our request. So the first instruction we want to give the AI is just what we're trying to achieve, some context for what we're trying to do. Let's try write a cover letter to apply for the job. Now, that's probably good enough for the context, but we could also say, we go back here to job description, we copy it, we could say write a cover letter to apply for the job described in the job description. Now what I'll typically do if I'm going to have some rules in here is I'll say something to the effect of follow these rules when writing the cover letter, colon, rule number 1. So rule number 1, let's actually bring this up so we can see it a little bit better. All right, rule number 1. Before the first paragraph, list my address, then the date. What is it? I'll just give today's present date because the AI doesn't know. So it's May 9th, 2024. Then the address listed in the job description. Then start with dear contact name. All right, that's a good first rule right there. Now the second rule is to explain why we are writing this company, where we heard about the job, and then some just base credentials about myself. The first paragraph should explain why I am writing the company, where I saw the job posted. The AI doesn't know, so I'm writing it down, indeed.com. Okay, now let's go to 3. Now the second paragraph, all right, should explain why I'm interested in this company. The second paragraph should explain why I am interested in this company. Let's go back to our cover letter that we had. Let's open that up. So maybe we could say, describe also one reason why the city that the company's located in appeals to me. So now it's important, if we're doing all this, that we have an address for the company, right? So this Monroe, Michigan. So we could say the second paragraph should explain why I'm interested in this company. Also add one sentence explaining why I want to live where the company is located based on a characteristic of its city. Now, the third and the fourth paragraph should explain why I'm a good fit for this company based on my background. The third and fourth paragraphs should explain why I am good fit for the company based on my experience. And then we'll end with the final paragraph should say something to the effect of, I would appreciate opportunity to meet with you to further discuss my qualifications. Thank you for your consideration. Pretty good so far. All right, the last thing I would add is simply the expected output. See how we're doing like my experience, and then we give it the experience. Job description, then we give it the job description. Instructions, then we give it the instructions. What do you think should come next? Any guesses? Cover letter. So it ends with this, and then the AI will hopefully give us the cover letter. Now, again, when we're using the playground, we always want to delete this starter thing up here. I don't know why it's always in there. And we will set our maximum length 2,500. That's what we normally do. And for this, we're going to be using GPT-4. All right, it's a little bit more expensive, but the quality's better, and making a cover letter is definitely worth it. So we'll use GPT-4 and see what it does. All right, so it has my address correct. Tim Smith, 365 Cherry Lane. There we go, Princeton, New Jersey. May 9th, that's what we told it to do right down here. Orchard Center High School, Orchard, Michigan. So why is it saying Orchard? So it probably can't find the address. That's okay, we'll fix it. Dear hiring manager, I'm ready to apply for the math teacher position at Orchard Center High School as advertised on Indeed.com. I hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics with a concentration in education from Princeton University, where I graduated with honors. Having read extensively about Orchard Center High School, I'm interested in being part of the team that values academic excellence and inclusivity. Your mission to prepare an unprecedented number of students to be college or career ready resonates with my personal teaching philosophy. Additionally, I'm also attracted to the small town environment with the amenities of the larger community that Orchard offers. Over the past few years, I've focused on building a robust skill set as a mathematics teacher during my student teaching time at Princeton University. Student teacher at Princeton High School of Mathematics. Okay, that's correct. I had to do a double take right there. I consistently sought out challenges and responsibilities beyond the conventional expectations. My bachelor's thesis. This is great. I would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to further discuss my qualifications. This is fantastic. You know how long this took me to make back in 2006 without AI? Now, the only thing left to do is this address. It's messing me up. It's talking about that Orchard offers, and then it doesn't really have the address up here. We could just manually fix this if we really like this, or we could copy this and save it somewhere. But we're just going to go ahead online and just double check. There's the location. Okay. So what we'll just do is we'll go over here to location. Oh, because this is what the AI got screwed up. Location, Orchard High School. And then there's no address in here. So we'll just put the address right down there. Awesome. So we'll have it do it one more time. See, now it has the right address up here. That's fantastic. I really like it. You can pause the video and read it if you want to. Now, if you wanted to tweak this at all, you can come down here and throw down another rule. You can change up one of these rules. All right. Or sometimes what I'll do is at the end of my prompts, I'll put a note in. Note, as you write, try to avoid using I a lot and use more you and language about how my skills can help your company. Okay. So we could throw something like that in there and see what the AI does a little bit. So I'm writing to express my interest in the advertised high school mathematics teaching position at Orchard High School. Your mission statement, oh, I like that, emphasizing the readiness of students for college and or career resonates with me greatly as an educator devoted to fostering well-rounded development. I find Orchard's ethos aligns with my professional objectives. The residential culture allure of Monroe and its community infrastructure offering both small town charm and larger community amenities is incredibly appealing and would surely make relocating to this vibrant locale a delightful adventure. Wow. A significant aspect of my suitability for this position lies in the versatility of my educational background and the practical experience I have gained as a student teacher at Princeton High School Mathematics Department. Focusing on students' individual needs, I developed and implemented instructional plans. Okay. So it looked like we centered more about what this school is all about and how like I meet those requirements. Awesome. So you could play with this and get something that really knocks it out of the park for you. So again, that's prompt formatting in a nutshell, creating these delimiters to separate different elements of data to get the AI to then better follow what you're asking it to do. Now, what we can do is we can take this and just replace the data that's in the job description with another job description, and it should work just fine. So let's go over here and find a new job description. So this is high school math teacher at this Catholic school. So we'll take this and we will copy it in. All right, so we got to copy the right place. Job description. There we go. So it's in there now. Now, the only issue is there's no address in here. All right, so we need to go back and get that address, get that location. So here we go. Get that location, put that in here. Fantastic. Okay, let's try it with this. We've swapped out the job description, put another one in here. Let's see what it says. And the quality of the output is simply going to be based on the quality of the input. So if your job description doesn't have a lot of data, then you're not going to get a lot that the AI can then work with. So you might have to go and dig around on their website for some better information. Dear Miss Morgan Delp, is that the name? Wow. Yeah. In reference to the attention of Miss Morgan Delp, that's fantastic. Upon discovering the high school math teacher opening at your institution posted on Indeed.com, I felt compelled to submit my application for consideration. As a graduate of Princeton University, my strong foundation in mathematics blended with a deep background in educational theory and practices positions me as a unique candidate for the role. Specifically, the dedication Central Catholic High School has demonstrated towards forming young men and women into disciples of Jesus Christ resonates with my personal commitment to holistic education. That's great. Absolutely fantastic. So you could theoretically do a unique one for each situation, and it might work out really well. Now, what you should be able to do at the end of the day, right, you should be able to, if you want to, you can copy this and go over to ChatGPT. Make sure, if you need to have a paid account for ChatGPT 4 in here, but you should be able to just paste in everything, get the same quality output out. It took a second to think. So this is the beauty of creating your custom prompts, and namely a prompt with prompt formatting. We can save this somewhere and references a couple of years from now when we have to relocate and get another job. And you just come to ChatGPT, you paste it in, and we'll do all the heavy lifting for you. Now, just be aware that, again, there's a bias with ChatGPT. So if you want to do this for another company, you'd come over here and start a new chat, all right? And then paste this in, and then delete the job description and paste a new one in too. So you can do it with ChatGPT, but you don't start with ChatGPT. You start in the playground to create your custom prompt. All right, that's it. Hey, I hope you guys liked principle number 7. And in the next lesson, we'll talk about principle number 8. Hey, and welcome back to the next lesson. This lesson, we're going to talk about principle number 8, which is using few shot prompting. So most prompts that you've encountered so far are called zero-shot prompts. A zero-shot prompt is simply where we're giving the AI a direction or we're asking it a question and the AI is giving us an output, and that's the end of it. Few-shot prompting is where we ask it a question or give it a direction and then give the AI also what we would expect the answer to be. Then we'll do that again, and as many times as we really want to do that. And then finally, we'll give it one last question or instruction, but then don't give it that output. And then the AI will fill in the blank. Okay, it's like a pattern. It's followed the pattern so far. Input, output, input, output, input, output, input, and then the AI gives us the output. So here's an example. All right, this would be an example of zero-shot prompting. So translate this sentence to French. My name is Sarah. Very simple to do. Right? You don't need few-shot prompting for this. This is a very simple prompt. But an example of few-shot would be where you feed all of this into the AI together. Like you were go to the playground, you feed all this in. Translate the sentence to French. Hello, how are you? Translation, bonjour. I'm not even going to try to butcher the French. French is supposed to be the romantic language. There's no romance in me trying to butcher French that I can't even speak. Translate this sentence to French. The weather is beautiful today. Here's the translation. Translate this to French. My name is Sarah. Okay. But then here would be the output. We're leaving this output blank and the AI will then fill in the rest. So that would be few-shot prompting. Now there's some benefits to this. Like, why would we want to do this? The main benefit is that the quality, assuming your inputs are good, is superb. The AI can pick up on nuances in your input that is just very hard to eloquate. Remember, we talked a couple principles ago about how the AI might have a different idea on what a particular word means. So sometimes when we try to describe what we're trying to achieve, we're boxing the AI in and it gives actually worse output because the AI is not doing what we want. So when we don't want to box the AI in, but we don't really know what it is we're trying to have the AI do, but we do know what the output looks like, that's where this can really shine. We can provide our input, provide the output, and do that a couple more times. And then the AI can pick up on those very slight nuances, those things that are hard to describe in words, and then replicate that. So very powerful stuff. And also it allows you to use some cheaper models. If what you're trying to do only works on GPT-4, doing some few shots, all right, some few shot prompting can actually make that would only work on GPT-4 work on GPT 3.5 or something like that. Now there is a downside to few shot prompting. The first downside is it takes a lot more time to set up because you're going to have to create those example responses. Remember over here, now this is very simple, okay? But the stuff that we would be dealing with would be much more complex. So you'd have to have your input and then you'd have to come up with what the output would be. All right, you'd have to have your input and then come up with what the output would be down here, okay? So you'll have to come up with all of those examples. And depending on what you're doing, it might be hard to achieve. If you can pull from maybe the internet from sources, or maybe you've already done a lot of things manually and you can just pull from those and say, oh, this is great. We can just replicate our existing SOPs. We have our inputs. We have what people manually created. We'll feed all that in and then the AI can replicate that. Yeah, the AI can do a really good job of that. The other downside is that if you are using this on a larger, more powerful model like GPT-4, it does get more expensive. If you're not doing it through ChatGPT, if you're using the API in the playground, it gets more expensive because we're feeding more data in. We're feeding a couple samples of data into the AI, and that's just more money, more resources that it's going to cost us. Okay, so let's do a couple examples here. A couple of years ago, I was working with this company called Phrase. It's an online writer to help you write content that ranks higher on Google. And they had an AI model in there that was not smart. This is a couple of years ago. And it's funny how fast things change. But a couple of years ago, before ChatGPT, when the AI was just coming out, there was no GPT-4, the models were not very smart. And so you had to do a lot of few shot prompting. But there's still valuable few shot prompts that I created that you can't replicate with zero shot prompting. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So let's pretend that we want the AI to write a product review, but with a little bit of humor, like a little conversationally, have it sound nice. So we have this product here. This is from Amazon. I bought this for my kid at lunch. It's the Arizona Watermelon Cowboy Cocktail. It's a fruit juice cocktail made with cane sugar. There you go, 100% pure cane sugar. So it's called Arizona watermelon drink. And there's not much of a description, but there's a little description here. And then they call it a cowboy cocktail. Okay. So I went to the playground and I fed that in. So category, kids juice box. Features, we're kind of making a little template out of this. Features. So Arizona watermelon serves up all fresh juice flavor you love. And none of the seeds is flavorful fruit. Say that 5 times. This flavorful fruity beverage, that's hard, is 100% natural, fortified with vitamin C, and contains no artificial preservatives or colors. Okay. About Amazon watermelon drink. Ride into lunch like a cowboy. Okay. That's kind of like the title that I wanted to give it, like the theme as it writes. Okay. So we're going to do GPT-4 and we'll just let this thing right now. Unleash the endless fun at your kids' lunchtime with Arizona watermelon drink. This juice box provides a blissful experience of fresh picked water. I love watermelons. Making every sip feel like a lively summer celebration. It eliminates the hassle of removing seeds, offering only unadulterated essence of the fruit. More than just a delicious beverage, Arizona watermelon drink is 100% natural, making it impact. I feel like we're on an advertisement right now. Buy this drink now. Also note that this drink prioritizes your child's health by eliminating artificial preservatives and colors. This ensures a pure and undiluted flavor, all packed in a handy, easily accessible juice box. That's not bad. It's not bad. Now, and that would be 0 shot. Now this would be few shot. So here's our first example up here. So I have an example, and then this is like the input we put in over here, but this is for a grill spatula, right? And then here's the output I would want the AI to come up with. And now typically, all right, when you have multiple examples, so again, just to clarify, this is the input and this is the output, all right? Here's another example. This is the input. This is the output. Another example. This is the input. This is the output. One last example. Input, output. Now, between each, I'll put 3 hashtags. Does the AI know that this means that this is a separator between samples? No, but the AI can learn that. It learns that because we have this format here and an output. And our input over here, all right, is in the same format. It's critically important when you're doing this, when you're setting this up, you have your prompt format. It's identical everywhere. So our category is going to be in every sample. All right. Category. Our features will be in every sample. The benefits now this stuff can change. What the category is can change. What the features are can change. What the benefits are can change. Okay. What this little tagline is can change. But you want everything else to be identical. The category, the features, the benefits. And then write about the world's largest beach ball. Category, features, benefits, write about. Category, features, benefits, write about. I'm kicking the dead horse here, but I want to hammer this home. And when it comes time to write the actual article about the juice box, okay, we'll put that over here in this user area, and it follows the same format. Category, features, write about, and the tagline. Okay, got that? Same settings, and we'll click run. Now, as that's running, I want to look at the samples that I gave it. So each of these samples are cheeky. There's a playfulness with them. So this is a grill spatula. Features: spatula is shaped like a guitar, stainless steel spatula and wood handle. Benefits: cook like conducting an orchestra, grill like a rock star. Write about barbecue guitar spatula. So again, it's a spatula shaped like a guitar. You could feel like you're jamming out to, I don't know, as you're grilling outside. So the tagline is grill like a rock star. You've worked your whole life to learn how to play the guitar. Now you can use those same skills to cook your favorite meals with this barbecue guitar spatula shaped like a guitar. With one hand on the spatula, you'll be able to flip burgers faster than Hendrix can pick a tune and slide steaks onto plates like the great Carlos Santana. You'll impress dinner guests with your ability to both play and grill, and before long you'll be playing air guitar with both hands while cooking up a storm. But it's not just about looks. The spatula is made from high quality stainless steel. It won't break or bend when it comes in contact with your grill's heat, so you won't have to worry about it snapping mid-performance. It also includes a wooden handle so you can transport your juicy cargo into the flames. So what are you waiting for? Get your hands on the barbecue guitar spatula and move over, Eddie Van Halen. You've got dinner duty now. That's fantastic, okay? So again, this is the sample. This is why it takes longer to create these few shot prompts, because We had to come up with this inflatable beach ball, a 12-foot beach ball, 12 foot, like this huge beach ball made from extra thick 30 millimeter vinyl material, conversation starter, great for parties in the beach, write about the world's largest beach ball. Tagline is big balls are better. Just imagine you're at the beach and all the other beach goers are just throwing around their same old boring beach balls when you show up with the world's largest beach ball constructed out of 30 millimeter thick vinyl material. So how do you describe these? There's some humor in them, all right? There's some cheekiness in them. They're also well written, okay? The few shot prompting can capture a lot of these things that are very hard to describe using words. So let's see what the AI came up with for this. Pull up to the lunch table with a swagger that says you've got the coolest drink in town. The Arizona watermelon drink box serves up all the fresh, juicy flavor your kids love, minus those pesky seeds, and with all the added bonus of the Wild West charm. This flavorful, fruity beverage is as natural as the wide open plains, with no artificial preservatives or colors, marring the pure, untamed taste of fresh watermelon. Like a cowboy atop his noble steed, Arizona is committed to keeping their drinks in the natural state, fortified with the extra boost of vitamin C to keep your little ones powered through the day. In the choice of sweeteners, nothing synthetic here. Just as a cowboy wrangles his steer, Arizona tames the sweet taste of watermelon with pure cane sugar, masterfully combining natural components to create the perfect thirst-quenching blend. The Arizona watermelon drink box is more than just a juice box. It's a cowboy cocktail that brings the raw, adventurous spirit of the Old West to the lunch table. So let your kids saddle up to the school with a drink that's as wild and as fun as they are. No artificial colors, no preservatives, just 100% natural taste. Yeehaw! I love it. Okay, so this, all right, the zero shot prompt, it pales in comparison to what we got out over here. All right. This isn't bad, but this is so much better. But how do you describe that? I can't describe this with words. The only way I can describe this is using samples. All right. So I hope that really drives the point home about the power of using a few shot prompting. Now, let me give you another example. Do you guys know about Seth Godin? So Seth Godin is this author. He's created a lot of different books, marketing type related material, really popular individual. And his books and his writing style and his blog, they're very unique. It's a very unique style of writing. So if we were just to say, write a thought-provoking essay about the beauty of life in Seth Godin's tone of voice. So authenticity, generosity, and the beauty of life in the exquisite cacophony of our modern society, the endless streams of emails, social media notifications, meetings, and more meetings, it is effortless to lose sight of what generally matters. Amidst the noise, we are often oblivious to the unvoiced melodies of life itself, not fleeting life marked by milestones and achievements, but enduring life painted with grace, generosity, connection, and authenticity. Now you may ask, how is this a reflection on the beauty of life? Here's a Seth Godin type of reference. Life in its barest essence is not just about survival, but rather a dance of connection, creation. Okay, so you get the point. It's not bad. I guess it makes you think a little bit. There we go, it stopped. It makes you think a little bit. A lot of big words. There's some big bulky paragraphs in here, so it's not as readable as maybe I'd like it to be. Okay, so let's dive into some few shot prompting now. Now, these are examples. Seth Godin didn't write these, but they're in the style of Seth Godin. So write a thought-provoking essay about surrendering in Seth Godin's tone of voice. Surrender and eat pancakes. So this is what I gave the AI to study. Okay, and there's some more examples in here too. There are 4 things you need to make good pancakes: flour, butter, milk, eggs. You can find these ingredients anywhere, but there is only one place where you'll find the right combination of them: in the kitchen of your mom or grandma. Mom used to make pancakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She made them from scratch using the best flour she could afford. Butter was fresh from the dairy case, milk straight from the cow, eggs that were laid by chickens who ate grass and corn, and bugs and bugs and bugs. And she made them with love. I'm sure you can imagine that the recipe is not written in stone. There were variations. Some days she might use whole wheat flour instead of white, or add raisins or chocolate chips, or even peanut butter. And some days she'd make them with frozen blueberries or strawberries instead of raspberries. This is true of recipes, life, and business. Our lives are filled with choices. Sometimes the choices seem obvious. Other times they feel like we're being forced into the corner. We can either choose to fight or we can choose to surrender. Surrendering is easy when it comes to pancakes. It's hard when it comes to a career, but it's the path to success. So let's stop fighting. Let's start surrendering. Let's eat some pancakes. So I believe I don't know if I got inspiration from that from somewhere. I wrote that myself. I don't know. I really like that. Okay. So that's the tone that I think, at least in my opinion, Seth Godin might write in, like deep thoughts, but some skinny paragraphs and then some like one sentence paragraphs in here to break the flow up a little bit and make it much more digestible. Okay. So we have the same prompt: write a thought-provoking essay about the beauty of life in Seth Godin's tone of voice. Appreciating the palette of existence. Life blooms in technicolor brilliance, a kaleidoscope of scenes painted with countless hues and emotions, experiences, successes, failures, love, loss, and most importantly, lessons. Each frame of existence holds an inexhaustible spectrum of beauty, often overlooked in our ceaseless pursuit of more. On particularly challenging days, life can seem a monotone of grays, without purpose or joy. But it's during these gray moments, let's cancel this so I can keep reading. It's during these gray moments that the true spectrum of life's vibrancy is often brought into stark relief. Consider for a moment a rainbow. The beauty of a rainbow is not just its brilliant arc of colors. The true beauty of a rainbow lies in the fact that it emerges only after a storm. The storm, as destructive as it may be, paves the way for something extraordinarily beautiful. Can the same be said about life? Truly, beauty in life is not about the comfort or ease. It's about the struggle, the journey, the growth. It's about shaping ourselves through our experiences, learning from our mistakes and pressing forth, not in spite of the obstacles we face, but because of them. Okay. So I think that's written a lot better. Look at some of these sentences. Consider for a moment a rainbow. Over here, we don't get a lot of that. Then there's generosity, a forgotten virtue in a world measured in terms of acquisitions and accumulations. There's an old saying, the more you give, the more you receive. The beauty of generosity isn't steeped in this. It's not bad, but I can't put my finger on it. This sounds more human written, more thought provoking. Now, I'm not getting right now the short. It's almost like a bucket brigade type of usage. I don't know if you know bucket brigade, but that's a style of writing. We could even put that in here using a bucket brigade technique. We can modify this tone of voice. If you don't know bucket brigade, you can look it up, but it's a way to use some transitionary words between paragraphs to help guide the AI. Well, let's write it again here just to be fair. Bucket brigade technique. It might actually do it on this end. We'll see. But I'll do it again over here. Let's see. There we go. So when you ask it to write using a bucket brigade technique, you'll get stuff like this. Life's got busy. So this is unexpected beauty of life. Life's got busy. Responsibilities took center stage, and slowly the beauty of life took a back seat. Let's stop for just 1 second. Let's start noticing the beauty around us, the architecture of buildings you pass every day on your way to work, the sound of a bird chirping outside your window. On this side, we don't really get that. That's a very hard technique for the AI to follow. So in a way, with few shot prompting, you can give it a technique, a known technique, and then give a couple few shots of that technique, of that example. All right, just make sure that you're not introducing something into your prompt that's not in the prompt over here, okay? But now we're getting some of those short transitionary, I call them paragraphs, but they're really sentences transitioning into the next paragraph. Stop and make you think. We're definitely getting shorter sentences here. So yeah, so that, there's one right there. We are all players in this theater of life. Cool. So that's an example, again, of few shot prompting. You don't want to use this technique everywhere. You'll want to use it in situations where you have these nuances that it's hard for the AI to capture, or maybe you want the output in a very complex formatted way. And the only way you can do that, because GPT-4 is not working or something, the only way you can do that through few shot prompting. So you'll have your input and you'll have your output, couple different maybe 3 hashtags or something. You'll do it again. And the more examples you give it, the better the AI will be able to accomplish what you want. So yeah, that wraps up this principle number 8. And in the next video, we'll talk about principle number 9. Hey, and welcome back. This is principle number 9, which is understanding brain power. The AI is best thought of as like a human brain. It's an individual who doesn't have feelings. It doesn't really physically get tired, but mentally does get tired on a request by request basis. It can only do so much. It only knows so much. It can only remember so much. And so if you were to ask your child to go and do 50 different things, this and this and this, they're going to skip some of those steps. They're going to forget some of those steps. The AI is the same way. Okay. The AI, once your prompts grow in size and complexity, it's going to start skipping things and not doing things. And that's why this is principle number 9, because all the principles before this have been leading up to this. We've talked about starting small with your prompts. We've talked about understanding cause and effect ambiguity. We've talked about subjective and objective words. We've talked about looking at the language of your prompts and asking yourself, as you tweak your prompts, as you modify your prompts, are all of the words still doing what they should be doing in the prompt? Are they all having the same effect? Or have you gotten to the point that the AI now is tired and you've exhausted its brain power for that request and it's skipping stuff now? It can't do anymore, okay? So that's an important thing you need to start thinking about. So there's a couple solutions when you've exceeded the AI's brain power. If you're not using GPT-4 or a more powerful model, then you should definitely try that more powerful model. That more powerful model is probably better equipped at carrying out a larger set of instructions and a larger set of rules that the weaker model like GPT 3.5 would be unable to do, okay? So first things first, check the model, make sure you're using the most powerful model if the AI is not doing what you need it to do. The second step is to use something called prompt stacking. It involves breaking your single prompt into multiple prompts, multiple steps, almost like having that conversation with the AI in ChatGPT, where you feed it the first request, the first command, and it could be a set of commands, a set of instructions, and it gives you the result, and then you feed it another direction, another step. So here's the benefit. The benefit is that weaker models can perform like powerful models now when you use prompt stacking, all right? Because you're taking those elements that require a lot of that brain power and then separating them out to their very own standalone prompts. And you'll really be surprised and amazed at what the AI can do when you just ask it to do one thing at a time. So let's give you an example here. So we have this prompt. I used GPT-4, but I just cropped it so you can see. In an article titled How to Watch a Dog, discuss the subtopic of proper preparation for dog bathing. Write using a second person point of view, active voice contractions following these rules. 2 paragraphs written in a style that is engaging, conversational, aiming to connect with readers on a personal level, though accessible vocabulary and short, medium lengths. I know there are some subjective and objective words in here. That's okay. That's not the example I'm going for right now. The tone is around 7 in emotion, using storytelling to evoke empathy and connection while incorporating varied sentence structure for flow and engagement, etc., etc. Now, the very last element down here is adjust the paragraph structure by logically grouping concepts on their own lines with a double new line after. So the reason I have this in here is because the AI just loves to write these big, fat, chunky paragraphs, okay? That's its bread and butter. The AI loves to do that. So I like to break those up and have 1 or 2 sentences per paragraph. So I'll usually throw this prompt in here. But as you can see, even using GPT-4, it's not able to do that, okay? So what we'll do is we'll prompt stack, all right? To avoid this brain power issue, the AI not being able to carry out this direction, we're gonna prompt stack, okay? So here's the first prompt. Same exact prompt we had, same thing, but with this yellow portion taken out, okay? The yellow portion taken out, get the same thing, same result, a little bit different. Maybe this is a little shorter, but that's just luck of the draw, all right? But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this output and run just this prompt on it, okay? So again, we're gonna take the output and just run this prompt on it. So here we go down. Here's the prompt, and here is our original output. And now this is what it did. So it didn't modify this at all. Like, it didn't change the words up. It just broke it up, broke up the paragraph structure by logically grouping complete concepts on their own lines with a double new line after, all right? I can't recall if I used GPT 3.5 for this or GPT-4, but this is an example of a prompt that using GPT-4, the AI could not accomplish, but I know it can accomplish just doing this with GPT 3.5. So feeding in a single prompt, stacking your prompt. You have your complex prompt. The AI can do all this stuff. You take out the stuff that it can't do, and you set that as its own prompt, and the AI can do a much better job of carrying out that request. Now, I don't know how many steps you're going to have. Maybe you'll have 5 different stacks. If you want to break this out further, maybe you'll have 5 different stacks. Yeah, that can get a little more time consuming. But if you really want that quality output that you're aiming for, you really want it to follow all of the directions, then stacking your prompts is definitely something you want to take advantage of. So there's a couple more tips when we're talking about understanding the AI's brain power. Keep a close eye on which rules the AI is not following. This is hammering some points home that we've talked about prior. When you're looking at your prompts, okay, and as the prompts have gotten longer and longer, you want to make sure that, is it writing about this title? Is it writing about this subtopic? Is it writing in a second person point of view, active voice? All of these limitations in here should be reflected somewhere in this output. And if they're not, then you should be asking yourself, okay, number one, assuming the AI can understand what that prompt means, why is it not carrying that out? Maybe it's something I need a prompt stack, and you can test it. You can just take that one element out, feed in the output, and kind of see what it does to test it out. You'll be getting 100% power when you're just running a single rule against your output or your example. So that's tip number one. Keep a close eye on which rules the AI is not following. Second tip is quantifiable rules require more brain power. So there's times when we want a certain number of words. And we've already talked about this before. The AI is not going to ever give you an exact number of words. You say, I want 150 words. It will never give you exactly 150 words, at least consistently by any means. But things that tell the AI how many or how much take more brain power. When you say, I want 150 words, that takes more brain power for the AI to actually perform. When you say, I want three paragraphs or 3 sentences, or I want each paragraph to have 3 sentences, okay? Or I want you to talk about 3 types of dog breeds, right? Those are things that expend more of that brain power of the AI and then cause the AI to not be able to follow the rest of the prompt as well, all right? Tip number 3 is rules affecting formatting require more brain power. Now, we're not talking about the formatting in the previous lesson where we had formatting of our prompt. The formatting here is a formatting of the output that we want. Let's say that we want the first sentence of the first paragraph to use this word, or we want the first sentence of the first paragraph to use a metaphor, or we want the last paragraph, the first sentence of the last paragraph to do something in particular. Maybe the first paragraph to start in second person and then transition into first person, okay? Those types of formatting require much more brain power on behalf of the AI, and that might be a situation where you want a prompt stack. And the final tip is injections also require more brain power. Telling the AI where you want stuff done in the output will require more brain power. Let's say you're having the AI create a Facebook post and you want it to use emojis at the very beginning, 4 emojis after the first paragraph, and then 3 emojis and 3 hashtags at the very end. Not only is that something quantifiable that requires a lot of brain power, but you're also telling it where you want that done. And that's also going to require an immense amount of brain power, something that you probably want done on a stacked prompt. So that wraps up understanding brain power principle number 9. Next lesson, we're going to dive into principle number 10. Hope to see you there. So principle number 10 is long output might have pattern bias. As you're having the AI generate content, there might be times when you want it to generate a lot of content, whether it's a paragraph format like a blog post or an essay, or a list of things, a list of 50 things or 100 things for whatever purpose. What can happen as the AI is generating that stuff is it can fall into a pattern, and I don't know what sets it off, but something sets it off. It usually happens later, like maybe 50% down in the list or in the content it's writing. And it falls into that pattern and you get very repetitious output. And it's not as creative, it's not as enjoyable to read, or it's not as useful for you anymore because it's fallen into that pattern. When the AI starts creating that output, sometimes it will fall into that pattern and destroy the quality of the content. So I have 2 examples here I'll demonstrate. It's hard to demonstrate this stuff on the fly because it doesn't happen all the time. But I want to point it out so you're at least aware of it and you can keep an eye out for it. So we have our prompt here. write a blog post about how to get into college with bad grades, the blog post should contain this outline. So introduction, assess the situation, explore community college options, etc. Okay. Here's our intro, assess the situation, explore community options. It doesn't look bad, but when you look at it, like there's no variation. You're getting about what, 1, 2, 3 sentences, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So very short format here. You're not getting a lot of variation with your sentences, okay? Because the AI has fallen into that pattern a little bit. Let me give you another example. So we have the same thing, but we've added the subheadings, assess the situation and explore community college options should each contain a bullet point list. So assess the situation, explore community college options, okay? So we asked for a bullet point list in both of these, but look what the AI decided to do. Create a bullet point list for everything, all right? So it's very hard to have the AI just put a bullet point list in these two, but not these other areas. Because once it gets into that pattern, it just loves those bullet point lists, unordered lists or numeric lists or whatever. It just loves those things. So you'll notice this when you're creating the content, you're creating your list or whatnot. What are the solutions to combat this? The ways to avoid this situation from happening is, number one, just create shorter content. Don't ask for a list of 50 things, ask for a list of 10 things, ask for a list of 5 things. Don't try to write an entire essay or an entire blog post. Generate just a subsection, like generate just this section at a time, okay? You could also, in a situation like this, you could also prompt stack, all right? You could have it write this, and then you could come back and say, okay, I want you to expound upon the assess the situation and rewrite it to add a couple more sentences or things like that. So keep an eye out for this. It happens a lot. Not a lot of people understand it, and they'll just take the data and run with it when there's a much better way to achieve higher quality content, avoiding that pattern bias. Okay, that's principle number 10, a very short principle. Next, we'll dive into principle 11. Now, principle 11 is something that I've picked up over the past couple of years of prompting. It's not something that you'll immediately notice, but after you've gained some experience, you'll start to notice this as you're creating your prompts. This is called the last but not least principle. So the AI does a good job of remembering the context you want it to write about. But when it comes to specific rules that you have, aside from the context, the AI remembers the last rule that you give it the best. So here's an example for you. I wanted to write this blog post, okay? Blog post title, outline, here's instructions. Write a blog post in Markdown format. Markdown is just like these little hashtags here. Following the outline above, write 2 paragraphs for each of the outline items. Okay, so we want 2 paragraphs for each of the outline items. Also write in a style that's friendly, blah, blah, blah. And then finally at the end, we have a delimiter that says blog post. So this is the rule I want to focus on. Write 2 paragraphs for each of the outline items. So assess the situation is 1 outline item. How many paragraphs do we have? We just have 1. So it's not following this rule right here. Now, remember we talked about a quantity, all right? A quantity rule takes a lot more brain power. So what can we do to solve this if we don't want to go back and do a stacked prompt? What we can do is move this to the last area in the prompt. So move it down like this. So we've just taken it from over here and moved it down here. Write 2 paragraphs for each of the outline items. And now we actually get 2 paragraphs for each of the outline items. Now realize there might be times when you don't get 2 paragraphs or when it doesn't follow this last rule. But on average, when we do our 5 times generation, one of the early principles was when you're modifying your prompt, you want to test it 5 times, 5 clean generations in the playground. And if on average you're getting the output that you want, then the rule is having a good effect, okay? So on average, this was giving me good output, giving me those 2 paragraphs. It was following that most of the time. So what are some tips we can get to have the AI follow the last rule the best? We can first try adding a rule to the last delimiter. So this probably isn't the best example for this situation, but sometimes in this last delimiter down here, I'll incorporate this rule in here. So maybe I'll say a blog post with 2 paragraphs for each outline item. And I put that all in caps inside of this little bracket area. That kind of reinforces to the AI what I want. Again, it's going to remember that last thing that you've told. It's like a kid. You tell your kid a bunch of things. Oh yeah, at the end, make sure you do this. The kid's probably going to remember that thing the most. Okay. So try adding your rule to the last delimiter. If you're still having trouble and this is not cutting it, put it inside of here. Tip number 2 is try repeating an important rule more than once. So instead of us removing this rule from over here, we could have left it in and then also replicated it down here. So we have it in there twice. Sometimes having it in there 2 times can help the AI. Now, beyond that, like 3 times, 4 times, if you need to do that, I would avoid that and try to find a different solution, because once you start putting the same rule in like multiple times, then unexpected things can happen. And the final tip's a funny one, but it's true, okay? Try yelling at the AI using all caps. Interestingly enough, that does work sometimes. I'm not a proponent of saying please and thank you to the AI, but sometimes when I need to stress a point to the AI, I might say like note colon, write to, and then paragraphs would be all caps. Paragraphs for, and then I'd uppercase each of the outline items, okay? So you can try yelling at the AI to stress different points, and that can help the AI follow those rules when it's not doing that. But try, the very first step, try putting those rules at the end, or the most important rule at the end. But the context doesn't have to go at the end. Have your context at the top. That's where I usually always have it. Write a blog post about the outline above. So we have our context up here. Don't put the context at the bottom, okay? That's principle 11 in a nutshell. It's a fun little principle that should help the AI better obey you. Hey, welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to share with you principle 12 that I call the rule of 1. So this is a principle that I discovered as I was creating content. And I realized that when I asked the AI for multiple things, maybe I'm writing a Facebook post and I have the AI give me 3 options. Or I'm writing an essay and I want 3 different variations of an intro and I'll pick the best one. Or I'm creating a list of titles for an essay or a blog post, or a list of, you fill in the blank, okay? When I'm having the AI give me different variations, different possibilities, the AI does not do as well of a job as when I just ask the AI for a single one. So again, when you have the AI do something and you want the AI to give you a couple different variations of it, don't ask it for all those variations all at once. Ask it for just one thing and then copy down the result, delete the output so you're not biasing the AI, and then have it redo it again. You'll actually get much higher quality output. It will be more creative. It will follow your directions better, and the quality will just be a lot higher. So let me give you an example. And a lot of these examples deal with writing blog posts because that's what my AI software does, but you can apply all of these principles to anything you do with the AI, not just writing blog posts, regardless of what profession you're in or how you use the AI. All of these principles that I'm teaching you work in all situations, okay? So the prompt here is write 5 short, engaging introductions for a blog post titled How to Wash a Dog. Each introduction should be under 75 words. Use persuasive language and include a touch of humor. They should set the tone for a light-hearted, informative guide on the best practices for bathing a dog, aiming to make the reader feel confident and amused about tackling what could be often a chaotic task. So here are our 5 different engaging introductions. Ready to turn your fur baby from funky to fresh? Let's dive into the sudsy adventure of washing your dog. This guide will have your pup smelling like a daisy, or at least a clean dog, in no time. So there's humor in there. It's fun. It's way under 75 words. Maybe this is like 20 words or 25 words. It does set the tone. Does it make the reader feel confident? There's a lot of subjective words in here, but it's not bad. Does the thought of washing your pooch make your bathroom look like an epic water battle scene? Fear not. With our tips and tricks, you'll be a dog washing pro in no time. Get ready to make your furry friend sparkle and shine. These aren't bad, but they are a little brief for an introduction. Now look what happens when, instead of asking for 5 short, engaging introductions, I just ask for a single short, engaging introduction. Write a short, engaging introduction for a blog post about everything else is the same. All right. We get a much longer result to begin with. This is twice the length of all of these. And it's more of an introduction and less of like just a 1 sentence. I don't know what you classify this as, but it's definitely, in my opinion, at least too short for an introduction. Bath time for our furry friends can be quite an adventure, from flying suds to slippery escapades. But fear not, fellow dog lovers, I'm here to guide you through the sudsy symphony of washing your pup. In this guide on how to wash a dog, we'll soak up the tips and tricks and have your four-legged companion smelling like roses, or at least less like a wet dog. Let's dive into the bubbly mayhem together. So I like that better. It's hard to describe the main, like the different, it's obviously longer, but it's hard to put into words why this is better than these. But it just seems like this is just too short. Bath time with your dog doesn't have to be a wet, wild mess. Say goodbye. It's almost like an advertisement. Ready to turn your fur baby from funky to fresh? Let's dive in. It's not personal enough. Whereas this right here, it actually seems like a personal introduction. Yes, it does use first person, but fear not, I'm here to guide you. So that's great too. This is something that's going to entice me to keep reading the article. So the quality is a lot higher on this. So really simple rule to understand. Instead of asking the AI for 5 or 3 or 10 of something, just ask it for 1. Have it do one thing and then copy the result, delete the result, and then generate again. And you'll have your list of 5 high quality outputs that you couldn't have otherwise gotten if you were just generating 5 at a time. Okay, so that wraps up principle 12. Next is principle 13. The 13th principle is a fun little principle. It's called the don't say it rule. It almost sounds like a kid's game at first, but it's a very powerful rule, and it's something that you want to pay attention to as you're prompting and as the AI is responding to your prompts, because it can solve the problem of running into situations where you can't break the AI from doing what it's doing, and it's doing something you don't want, but you can't seem to get it out of what it's doing. And you're just scratching your head or banging your head against the wall, and you're wondering, why is the AI doing this? I can't stop the AI from doing this. You might have put it in a cage. So this usually involves a noun when we're giving it a particular noun to the AI. And when we do that, when we're telling the AI, we want you to do this or give me this, and it's usually a noun, we're putting the AI in a cage. And it's hard for the AI to get out of that cage. And so sometimes this can be good, but oftentimes it's bad. Let me give you an example over here. So a couple different examples. Write a 75-word intro for a blog post about how to wash a dog, right in the second person point of view. So we have our intro over here. If you have a furry friend at home, keeping them clean is essential for their health and happiness. Washing your dog might seem like a daunting task, but with the right tips and tricks, it can be simple. In this blog post, okay, so first of all, it says the word blog post, but it also looks like a blog post intro, okay? Now here's the next prompt. Write a 75-word LinkedIn post about how to wash a dog, all right? So no longer does it say the word blog post, but now it has an emoji in here. Write a 75-word tweet about how to wash a dog. Now we have more emojis, we have some quotes, and it's shorter. The content is shorter. So I've actually tried to write LinkedIn posts before, and it would throw in these like emojis, and then I'd tell it, don't write with an emoji, and it would not obey me. It would still use emojis. And the reason why it was doing that was because I was telling it to write a LinkedIn post. And think of the AI's been trained on human content. So it's been trained on blog posts. It's been trained on journal articles. It's been trained on the internet. It's been trained on social media posts. And what do social media posts have? They have emojis. So it's really hard once we've caged the AI with this concept right here to break it for that. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention we have some hashtags down here too. Some hashtags down here. So it's really hard to avoid this. Maybe we like the hashtags, but we don't want the emojis. It's hard to break it when we use the word LinkedIn. Same way with tweet. We're getting less words for our tweet, even though we specified the same amount of words, but we're getting less words because a tweet is naturally pretty short. Now it doesn't say the word tweet in here, but a lot of times tweets will have emojis at the end. Now up here with a blog post, it looks like a stereotypical blog post minus like the AI words in here, like daunting and whatnot. But it also says the word in this blog post. So we could try to negatively prompt this and say, don't use the word blog post. But maybe a better solution would be, don't use the word blog post in here at all. And just say, write a 75-word intro about how to wash a dog. And then we don't have to negatively prompt and like scratch out what the AI has already done and waste that brain power. Over here, maybe instead of saying LinkedIn post, maybe we just say social media post. Now we very well might get the hashtags and the emoji. So maybe we take out the word social media And we just say, write a 75-word post and see what that does. Right? Same concept down here. So there's a couple tips to avoid saying it. All right, we covered some of them just now, but there's a couple more. Investigate what saying it does to the output. All right, so we did that over here. But again, you might not be writing a blog post intro. You might be doing something else. Try saying it, whatever it is in your context. Maybe you're making a TPS report for your business, or a cover letter, or a summary, or a conclusion, or a Facebook post. I don't know, whatever you're making, try just going to the AI and saying, write a blank about this topic and see what it does. And then do it 5 times. And then you take that away, take that concept, that noun away, or substitute a different noun, a more generic noun in there, and see what changes. The second tip is use rules to explain what you want without saying it. So back to our example over here. Why did you want it to write a LinkedIn post? Did you want the emojis? Did you just want the hashtags? Okay. Let's say you just wanted the hashtags. You could say, write a 75-word intro about how to wash a dog and include 3 hashtags at the end of it. So there's ways to describe what you want about that particular concept without reciting the concept and caging the AI into it. And then finally, if you must say it, then try negative prompting. So we talked about here where you could say, okay, I have to say the word LinkedIn post because it's just not obeying me if I don't use the word LinkedIn post, but I hate the emojis. So you could try to negative prompt out the emojis, although sometimes the training for the AI is so ingrained in its brain, it's just hard. It's like telling somebody from the North to talk like somebody from the South with a Southern accent. It's just really harder. Or have someone at the in America talk with an Australian accent. I can't do that. I'd love to talk like Crocodile Dundee. Can't do that. But you could try that negative prompting and see how it works for you, but your mileage will definitely vary. So that's principle 13, and we're getting close. We're getting close to the end. Next up is principle 14. Now, principle 14 could very well be a controversial principle, but it's something I'm sharing my principles that I follow, that I do based on thousands of hours of prompting. I've prompted for the past 3 years. I've made AI writing software that tens of thousands of people use. Trust my experience in this, okay? Don't play make-believe with the AI. It's tempting to do, but I would not do that. In all of my AI software, I can't recall an instance where I'm playing make-believe with the AI. And what that means is simply when we prompt the AI, pretend you are fill in the blank. Pretend you are Albert Einstein. Pretend that you are super smart or something like that. That's playing make-believe. I don't recommend doing that for a couple reasons. We talked about this in the last principle, which is putting the AI in a cage. When we're telling the AI to give us a particular type of output or to be someone, it puts the AI in a cage. Or it might not do anything whatsoever. One thing you need to realize is when you're telling the AI to pretend to be something, the AI would only do something different if it's been trained on that person's output. Pretend that you are Muhammad Ali. The AI does not, it's never read anything written by Muhammad Ali. I don't think he wrote any books, but if he did, I doubt the AI had studied it. And so what's the AI gonna write? I have no idea, but it's not gonna be like Muhammad Ali. But also sometimes the AI can take on that persona too, and that persona can become explicitly recited in the output, which is, not good either. It says, I am Muhammad Ali. We don't want that. We want it to write like Muhammad Ali. So let me give you some examples of the detriments, the downsides to playing make-believe, and reinforce why you should not do it. So this first example, we have the same prompt for both, but down below we're playing make-believe, up top we're not. So we have write a newspaper article about the pros and cons of electric cars. The article should be 500 words or less. Okay, pretty simple. Here's our output. Now, same thing down here, but we have pretend that you are an expert copywriter who works for the New York Times. So I want to ask you, what is the difference between both of these? Each section even starts with the same words. Electric cars have been gaining popularity. Electric cars have become increasingly popular. One of the biggest benefits, one of the biggest advantages, in addition to their environmental benefits, in addition to being better for the environment. It's saying the same stuff. What is this doing? I can't tell what this is doing at all. I don't think it's doing anything. Plus, when we take a step back and we think about this, how does the AI write differently when we tell it to be an expert copywriter? I've never had the AI write like a stupid copywriter. Like the AI is just not going to write like a stupid copywriter and then write so much better when you say be an expert copywriter. What does that mean? The AI was simply trained on the internet, trained on language, trained on words. And I guess if there's classifications for the stuff, if you weren't to say like the New York Times, if you said like the Onion's the humorous website, like the Inquirer, it has these make-believe stories that are just fun to read. And so there's a lot of non-truth in there, a lot of humor and whatnot. It would probably write differently if you told it to write like the Onion, okay? But writing like the New York Times, that's just like a newspaper that just reports on facts. So the AI doesn't know what to do differently. Now, you've already told it that you want it to write this newspaper article, so you're boxing it in right there. It wants to be more factual and less like flowery and whatnot. But other than that, I don't think this is doing anything. Let's look at another example. Pretend you are Dr. Seuss, okay? So now it actually takes on the persona and writes in the style of Dr. Seuss. All right, now maybe that's what you want, all right? That could be an example where, all right, you've avoided playing make-believe, but in this instance, you want to actually play make-believe and you want to have it write like Dr. Seuss. One of the downsides though, when you do this, and this is an extreme example, who's going to write like Dr. Seuss unless we're trying to pass English class or something like that using AI to cheat. It pretends like it is Dr. Seuss, or it actually recites the phrase or the name. So let's take a closer look at the pros and cons of electric cars straight from the whimsical world of Dr. Seuss. All right, we don't really, a lot of times when we tell it to pretend that the AI is somebody, we don't want it to tell who we're pretending the AI is, or pretend that you're Albert Einstein. So we don't see a lot going on in here aside from here. As a renowned physicist, I have studied the potential benefits and drawbacks of electric vehicles. So having this in here we don't want it to be Albert Einstein and write from the perspective of Albert Einstein. We want it to write smart. I don't know why we would put this in here, but maybe we just wanted a more educated article. What I will typically do in situations like this is figure out how somebody like this writes. So pretend that you are Albert Einstein. How does Albert Einstein write? Scientifically, factually oriented. I don't know what other ways that he writes, but you could say, instead of having it pretend you are Albert Einstein, you could say, write in a style that is factually oriented and scientific, like a journal article or something like that. That would allow the AI to write more in the style of Albert Einstein without pretending the AI actually is Albert Einstein. That might be a little bit harder to do with Dr. Seuss up here. Dr. Seuss writes in a specific rhyming style, but if there's a name for this, if there's a specific name for writing like this, you could probably say write in the style of Dr. Seuss, period, instead of saying pretending you are Dr. Seuss. Because when you tell it to write in the style of Dr. Seuss, it might avoid saying stuff like this sentence right here. One more example. Pretend that you're a salaried worker between 20 to 30 years living in the United States. Give me 10 marketing ideas that would entice you to buy real estate. This kind of goes back to our initial principles. What is this even doing? What are these subjective words actually doing? A salaried worker, not just a worker, but a salaried worker between 20 to 30 years old. How can the AI use that to create output? I have no idea. I don't know what it's doing with that. It very well might not be doing anything, but whatever it is doing, it's going to be so hard to figure it out. Does a salaried worker even have a particular writing style? When you do these things, think about, has the AI been trained on this particular person's writing? Or do they know how this person writes? Rocky Balboa, for instance, fictional character. If you ask the AI to write like Rocky Balboa, I guess the AI has read things on the internet about how Rocky speaks. And so the AI will say, yo, Adrian, a lot and stuff like this. Rocky Balboa's fictional character hasn't written any books, but the AI can still pick up on some nuances, but it will become Rocky Balboa, not something that you want. Here, though, a salaried worker between 20 to 30 years living in the United States, the AI has nothing to go on here. All right, this is a total garbage. Much better to say, give me 10 marketing ideas that would entice you to buy real estate. You can look at both of these results. Completely identical. So long story short, avoid playing make-believe. It doesn't add anything. It just puts the AI in a cage or confuses the AI. It's better to ask, how does an expert copywriter write? Writing like Albert Einstein. How does Albert Einstein write? Okay, then tell it to write in that style or with a tone of voice that's humorous or rhyming or things like that. And that will do a better job of not putting the AI in a box, not caging it in, and getting you output that's actually caused repeatedly by your input. So that covers principle 14, and we're going to move on to the last principle, home stretch. Hope to see you in a minute. All right, principle 15, last principle we're going to cover. It's called add some flavor. This is a very fun principle for me because it allows me to spice up the output a little bit. A lot of times with AI, it can only do so much. It's not going to be as imaginative or fun. The output's going to be very, very standard within its capabilities. We explained this a little bit with the few shot prompting, with those examples we had, where we wrote the example of that product review, and then also that story in the style of Seth Godin. Without that few shot prompting, couldn't do a very good job. But when we gave that few shot prompting, it could be more imaginative. The word choices and the language and the structure were more enjoyable to read. So this is another way to do that too. It involves adding literary devices or other commands to the AI to change up the output a little bit. So if you don't know what a literary device is, there's a whole bunch of them. There's metaphors and similes and onomatopoeias and things. You can go online and find tons where you could ask the AI about them. So write a list of 15 literary devices that someone can use when they write, such as metaphors, etc. A metaphor is comparing two things without using like or as. A simile comparing using like or as. Hyperbole, personification, foreshadowing, alliteration, irony, oxymoron, symbolism, imagery. These are great things that we can incorporate into our writing. And you don't want to incorporate them everywhere, but good writers, good authors will write using these concepts and they pepper them in. You don't want to just dump this stuff everywhere, but you're selective with your seasoning. You season the output with some of this stuff, and it will dramatically enhance the quality of the results that you're getting. As an example, we could say, write a Facebook post about how to be successful in raising your kids. The post should be 2 paragraphs. So we write our Facebook post right here, and while that's writing, I'm going to open up one more tab. We'll copy the same prompt in. So raising your children successfully is a lifelong commitment and the greatest job one could ever have. Starts with teaching them good manners. Remember, perfection is not required. No, okay, it's not bad, all right, but it's not like, it doesn't really just capture my attention and draw me in. So we can say, okay, let's use a literary device. Let's just use a metaphor, something nice and simple. Start the first sentence with a metaphor, okay? Pump this up, see what we get. Raising children is much like gardening. You plant seeds, provide the necessary nutrients, ensure adequate sunlight, and watch as they grow, bloom, and bear fruit. How cool is that? So the AI can think outside the box and be more creative when we give it hints on what we want. Hey, you know what? Use a metaphor, use an oxymoron, use some allegory, use some imagery, things like that. You can also, use some facts. Say, hey, give me some factual data. Now you'd have to obviously verify this factual data. Start the first sentence with an interesting fact that most people don't know. So it might pull an incorrect fact, but you could verify that and just change the number. But did you know that according to multiple studies, the most important predictor of a child's emotional and social development are secure and consistent relationships with their caregivers? So that kind of springboards the whole conversation also, or it takes it in a whole new direction. I do that a lot in my AI writing software. I'll have these literary devices and these factual elements that will get brought in, and it will add more flavor to the content, make it more enjoyable, more easy to read, draw the readers in, and give a new direction for the AI to take the writing. So think about adding some flavor whenever you decide to write your content. And again, I don't know what the subject matter is. Maybe you're doing blog posts or social media posts or business stuff. You're going to write a proposal for an acquisition or something. Yeah, throw a metaphor in. Who knows? Maybe that will help you acquire the company. But yeah, add some flavor. Think about that. It's a great way to spice up your content. That's it. That's the last principle. I have some bonus content, so stick around for that. Otherwise, I hope you guys took a lot away from this particular course. There's a lot of different principles in here. Feel free to go back to them at your leisure, but practice makes perfect. You don't have to incorporate every single one of these, but we should all become better at prompting. There's a lot of these prompt generators out there online. Don't use those, right? Learn how to prompt yourself, and then learn how to analyze prompts and pick apart the good and throw out the bad, and you'll become that much better. You'll have, this is like learning a new skill. All right, back in the day, the big skills to learn when you're, getting into the workforce was Excel and Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. Now it's prompting. Learn how to prompt. You'll become that much more better and successful in your endeavors. So thank you for getting the course. Thank you for watching it, and stick around for the bonus content.